Dawaj mi ten stream z PoE, stary. Dobra, dawaj ten stream z PoE. Zajebisty ten stream z PoE.
On a computer, like it was. He was literally just like making sure you got the lowest
Czy
aspect
Blizzard
rolls or
jest
anything
poważny,
like
że
that.
serio
Yeah,
robił Campfire Chat w momencie trwania PoE? Poczekajcie sobie, wejdę w kategorię PoE, tak mi będzie najłatwiej. Path of Exile. GGG.
And then the second point here is
Ej, to jest taka sytuacja, że... to jest taka sytuacja, gdzie dosłownie... wiecie, jak z tych filmów, no nie? Że przychodzi macocha i mówi, co ty robisz, gówniarzu? Co ty tu masz? Pokaż, co ty masz pod tą kołdrą. Underdog Path of Exile właśnie wali Diablo 4 prawie 15-krotnie, jeśli chodzi o liczbę widzów tylko na oficjalnym kanale, jakby się ktoś zastanawiał, w jak złej pozycji jest Blizzard teraz. A w ogóle zobaczmy, jak jest jeszcze w kategorii, jaka jest różnica. To jest w ogóle trwające. 23 000 widzów, 160 000 widzów, nie? You get what you fucking deserve. Ustawicie kategorię Path of Exile, żeby były dropy. Jak oglądacie to na YouTubie, to ja wam od razu dam informację, że że jak oglądacie takie rzeczy na żywo, to są dropy. Są tu dropy, są dropy. Wchodzimy w ten sztos. Wiecie co? Bo wy zadajecie często takie pytania. Kiszak, czy wydaje ci się, że warto byłoby zagrać w Path of Exile 2, jeżeli nie grałem w jedynkę? I wiecie co? I oczywiście, że jest warto. Bo to jest tytuł i ja wam przedstawię tą perspektywę. Ponieważ bardzo dużo osób ma takie poczucie, że dużo innych osób ma zrobiony progres w Path of Exile 1, ma bardzo dużo wiedzy. I jeżeli wy wchodzicie do tego Path of Exile 1 teraz, to jesteście na straconej pozycji. Nigdy ich nie dogonicie wiedzą, nigdy ich nie dogonicie skillem, bo nie da się tego przeskoczyć. Ale Path of Exile 2 to będzie całkowite przetasowanie kart. Naprawdę. Streamerzy Path of Exile w ogóle zabierają się teraz za streamowanie Souls-like'ów, bo są świadomi, że te gry będą związane z biciem bossów i że muszą podciągnąć się w tym bardzo mocno. I to jest ciekawe do obserwowania. No, wiadomo, że część tak jakby wiedzy, jaką masz na temat optymalizowania buildów, działania, ich zależności pomiędzy nimi, takie stricte logiczne myślenie, wnioskowanie, jakie połączenie może być dobre, co kiedy działa, co mniej więcej potrzebujesz w buildzie, to są rzeczy, których będziecie się musieli nauczyć, ale na przykład mi tych rzeczy z Path of Exile uczy się bardzo prosto, bo one wszystkie bazują na logice Diablo, więc to są rzeczy proste do nauczenia, jeśli ogarniacie taki temat, no nie? Jeżeli sami na przykład potraficie sobie tworzyć buildy w grach, jeżeli sami gracie w karcianki, gdzie sobie tworzycie buildy, w jakieś roguelike'i, gdzie za każdym razem to wy jesteście zmuszeni wybierać jakieś konkretne power-upy, to w PoE powinniście sobie poradzić. No i też miejcie świadomość, że tutaj każdy wchodzi na takiej tabula rasie, bo nie będzie buildów w pierwszy dzień. I każdy będzie musiał odkrywać i będzie ciężko i każdy będzie miał ciężko. Więc no to będzie najlepszy moment, żeby wystartować PoE i tutaj będzie... PoE 2 będzie takim fajnym systemem, bo faktycznie tutaj będziemy mieć świadomość tego, że łączą nam się elementy, które są związane z taką akcyjną grą, z biciem bossów, rzeczy z Souls-like'ów, z jakichś slasherów pokroju Devil May Cry'a, z unikania jakichś ataków, wyprowadzania kombosów, powiedzmy, albo łączenia tych naszych ciosów, z tą wiedzą taką typowo matematyczną, optymalizacyjną z hack and slashy, prawda? Ze sposobem przechodzenia gry, z optymalizacją waszego czasu, tworzeniem buildów, determinowaniem waszych na przykład szans, upgrade'ów i innych tego typu rzeczy. Więc to PoE 2, no musicie tego spróbować. I to jest to, przed czym wy teraz stoicie, to jest bardzo duże wydarzenie gamingowe i wy tam chcecie być, bo to będzie wydarzenie, wiecie, takie jak, nie wiem, start WoWa kiedyś, jak z... wiecie, co będzie tutaj najlepszym porównaniem? Przypomnijcie sobie, jak wyglądało Diablo 3, premiera Diablo 3, nie każdy to pamięta, no nie? Ale pamiętacie premierę Diablo 3 i pierwsze wejście na Inferno? To było niesamowite. Wy tego już nie przeżyjecie drugi raz. Wy tego nie przeżyjecie, bo ta gra się zmieni, te buildy się zmienią, gracze zoptymalizują grę, będziecie mieć dużą liczbę poradników, każdy będzie wiedział, jak co robić i wy już do tego nie wrócicie. A tych wspomnień wam już wtedy nikt faktycznie... Te jebane muchy w drugim akcie, dokładnie. No, dokładnie. Więc to jest jedna z tych premier, której naprawdę chcecie być częścią. Serio, chcecie być częścią tego PoE. I ja dosłownie nie mogę się doczekać. Naprawdę się nie mogę doczekać. A będzie dużo takich sytuacji, że zobaczycie, że starzy gracze PoE będą się wykruszać, bo gra będzie trudniejsza, bo gra będzie od nich wymagała innego typu gameplayu. Gra będzie taką totalną nowością. Czy myślisz, że twórcy ugną się pod narzekaniem ludzi? Chciałbym, żeby się nie ugięli. Mają taką bardzo dobrą kartę przetargową, że to nie jest update do jedynki. Jeżeli ktoś będzie chciał wrócić do pacingu z PoE 1, to będzie mógł wrócić do pacingu z PoE 1. I to jest zajebiste w tym wszystkim. Bardzo mi się podoba to podejście. PoE 2 będzie inną grą. I dużo starych graczy będzie na to narzekało, bo... No słuchajcie, ja mam bardzo dobry kontakt na przykład z polskimi twórcami PoE. Te chłopaki robią własne buildy, chłopaki edytują te buildy, chłopaki pomagają dużej ilości nowych graczy, którzy wchodzą do tego PoE, prawda? I oni zawsze mówią jedno. Ludzie nie tworzą swoich buildów. Ludzie biorą build z neta i jadą nim do przodu. I to są takie... żeby dać wam perspektywę, jak bardzo ludzie są zaślepieni w używaniu buildów z neta, to dochodzi do sytuacji, że grasz na przykład klasą Templara z rozszerzeniem Inkwizytora i ludzie potrafią wejść i jak im się pojawia wybór podklasy, to się zapytają, czy ej, słuchaj, ja mam, jeżeli gram Archmage'em Inkwizytorem, czy ja mam wybrać ascendancję Inkwizytora, czy ja mam wybrać ascendancję jakąś inną? I Piotrek mówi, wiesz co, stary, no przeczytaj jeszcze raz to, co napisałeś. I koleś jeszcze raz potrafi napisać, słuchaj, jeżeli gram Archmage'em Inkwizytorem, to jaką mam wybrać ascendancję? Mam wygrać Hierofantę czy Inkwizytora? Czai się to. Więc ludzie nie myślą nad swoimi buildami. Tu będzie naprawdę bardzo, ale to bardzo ciężko niektórym w to wejść, bo no ludzie po prostu chłoną tą grę taką jaką jest, biorą build z neta i go w ogóle nie edytują. Bardzo mało odsetek graczy się tym zajmuje, a tutaj każdy będzie do tego przymuszony na samym początku.
Sir, just what are we facing here?
Zaczyna się. Ale cinematic.
Ready your men, Captain. We will only get one chance. And remember,
Ty, cinematic mają taki w pełnym 3D wyrenderowany.
attack!
Ale klimat gęsty.
When you hear the whispers, what do you think he was on about?
It's Dorman, right?
Yeah?
Then Dorman. Shut your damn mouth. Ugh, why do I always get stuck with these rookies?
Hey, the kid's got a mean cleave. Give him a chance.
Quiet.
Sullen!
Ale RPG się z tego wlewa i taki fantasy gęsty, nie? To można byłoby zreuploadować i podpisać trailer Wiedźmina 4.
A mean cleave, eh, Captain? Rookie can't even lift his own sword. Captain Oren? Captain? It's here. Rain! Send the signal!
What the fuck?
Rain! On my back, Rookie! Blade up!
Come on! I'm ready! I'm ready!
Jak ja uwielbiam takie dymy, takie mgły.
Man,
Ej, to jest Kanopoe, nie? Tak.
It's not.
Run! Prewatchowałem to.
Captain!
Zwróćcie uwagę, że to jest cały czas kolorystyka Poe, no nie? W tym wszystkim. Widzicie, jak jest nasycenie tych barw? Jest bardzo dużo złotych akcentów, które oni uwielbiają.
What is it?
Get the body.
Stop. Mortal. It can still be contained. You don't know what you have unleashed.
Your kind no longer control this world. We cannot destroy your body, it's true. But you will watch as we destroy everything you have built. Bind him! Feed. Grow, my child. I'll make sure you can eat your fill.
Nice! Ta panorama jak z Diablo 2. W Diablo 2 była w cinematikach taka panorama miast, nie? Pokazywana. Jak do Ludgolem było wchodzone. Zajebisty trailer.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Rogers, Game Director on Path of Exile 2. Now, Path of Exile 2 is going into early access in around 2 weeks on December the 6th. But even though it's early access, this isn't just some small taste. The game is
Źle mu
huge.
prompter
In
ustawili.
this live stream, we're going to be introducing everything you can expect. So without further ado, let's roll the gameplay trailer.
Existence is a thing of beauty, precious, but impermanent. Life and death are mortal enemies, and yet bound to one another.
Aha!
The continuation of life
Połączone
must
ciała.
be protected at all costs.
Się bardzo... O, przycięty człowiek w pół, tak, ale zajebiste.
My methods
Się tak też bardzo podoba, bo nie mają dużo nawiązań do... wierzeń swoich, nie?
salvation without sacrifice.
Patrzcie na ten movement. A! Ale impact jest zajebisty tych uderzeń. Drzewka, nice. No i tak się robi drugą część gry, nie rezygnujesz z poprzedniego. Tylko to ulepszasz. Jaki piękny jest to inferno. Jak byłem dzieckiem, tak myślałem, że będzie Diablo 3 wyglądało.
I will do what I must.
Co to za progresja taka mobilkowa? Co to za budowa miast? To Atlas, nie, to był Atlas.
Those who obsess
A może to
with
była
death,
progresja map?
let them soon be acquainted with it.
Now, as you just saw, even in early access, Path of Exile 2 is a big game. It's actually been 5 years since we announced PoE 2, and over that time we've revealed a lot, but it's been in bits and pieces. It's pretty hard to keep track of it all, so today we're going to do a full rundown of all the content that will be available at the start of Early Access. Classes, character progression systems, and for the first time, a full overview of the Endgame. This is going to be a big one, so get comfortable. For 20 years, Rayclast has been free from any sources of corruption, but the Count of Ogham, tempted by promises of power, intends to harness it once more. The dead are rising, monsters are mutating, and madness is spreading. Under the dark influence of corruption, the Count doles out sentences of death to any who would question him.
Ten wybór postaci jest tak dobry.
And this is where you find yourself at the start of PoE 2. Explore the dark forests of Ogham, traverse the barren plains of the Vasteri Desert, and delve into the jungle ruins of Utsal, an ancient Val city. There are challenging monsters,
To wszędzie, bo to u nich, okej.
lost camps and treasures, roaming merchants, and of course, unique bosses. No two areas are the same. It falls to you to track down the seed of corruption, the source of all this devastation. On the way, you'll face fearsome monsters, meet strange characters, forge unlikely bonds, and uncover lost civilizations. But first, you'll need to pick a class. Now, Early Access will initially have 6 classes available. Let's have a look at them. The Monk is a fast and furious melee fighter.
Jest to na
dashes in and out
YouTubie?
of combat, and
Może
his
na
mechanics
YouTubie nie
involve
jest
building
ten.
up and keeping momentum. Like all classes in PoE 2, you'll want to use a wide variety of skills to mix and match different combos. To get
A u was też tak
skills,
jest,
you will
nie?
first need to find skill gems. Using a skill gem will open the gem cutting menu, which shows all the active skills available in PoE 2. You can choose an existing...
Oho, dobra, mają nawet ten, technical difficulties. Dobra, czekamy. Przynajmniej ta firma jest przygotowana na to, chociaż to da się. Zobaczmy, jak Blizzard sobie radzi w międzyczasie. Diablo 4. A już się chyba skończyło, nie? Już się chyba skończyło po prostu. No, już się dobra, już się widzę, skończyło. Widzu, spamujesz cały czas, że masz coś o Wiedźminie, o teorii na Skellige. Wiesz co, może wybierz jakiś lepszy moment, a nie wtedy, gdy oglądamy duży event.
Just what are we facing here?
O, jest!
Precious. Those who
power and tends to harness...
Skip.
There are 21 active skills for quarterstaves, so this just scratches the surface of the options that you have.
Chyba za
Endgame,
dużo.
you'll be dashing from pack to pack, spewing is where you find yourself at the start of PoE 2.
O, tu.
Explore the dark forests of Ogham, traverse the barren plains of the Vasteri Desert, and delve into the jungle ruins of Utsal, an ancient Val city. There are challenging monsters, hidden runes, lost camps and treasures, roaming merchants, and of course, unique bosses. No two areas are the same. It falls to you to track down the seed of corruption, the source of all this devastation. On the way, you'll face fearsome monsters, meet strange characters, forge unlikely bonds, and uncover lost civilizations. But first, you'll need to pick a class. Now, Early Access will initially have 6 classes available. Let's have a look at them. The Monk is a fast and furious melee fighter. He dashes in and out of combat, and his mechanics involve building up and keeping momentum. Like all classes in PoE 2, you'll want to use
fajne
a
ma
wide variety
momentum
of
tych
skills to
ataków,
mix and match different
ale chyba nie
combos.
klasa dla mnie. Ja nie lubię grania
To
w
get
hack
new
and slashy
skills,
na
you'll first
podstawie
need to
takich
find skill
kombosów.
gems. Using a skill gem will open the gem cutting menu, which shows all the active skills available in PoE 2. You can choose an existing skill to level up, or choose to engrave a new one. Since this is a level 7 skill gem, even if you pick a new
Poczekaj,
skill,
skill
it will
gemy
immediately
są
be
tak,
level
że jak
7.
masz nowy,
So
to
there's no
możesz
harm in
ulepszyć
trying out something
poprzedni
new.
i ich nie levelujesz
The
normalnie.
Monk primarily uses the quarterstaff. There are 3 schools of martial arts: lightning, ice, and wind. But don't think you have to stick to just one. The best combos are going to involve mixing elements of all three. Let's try Killing Palm. Like many monk skills, this can be used to quickly take advantage of a specific
Diablo
situation.
1.
If there's an enemy on low life, you can use Killing Palm to dash to them and kill them instantly. This will provide a power charge. Then we can use a different skill to consume that power charge for a much more devastating attack. The monk also has powerful combo skills. Tempest Bell, for example, is a skill that places a giant resonating bell. Hitting the bell causes it to ring, dealing damage to all enemies around it. You can also do things like freeze or shock the bell, which will add elemental damage to the strikes. The monk also has a variety of abilities to empower his staff. If an enemy is close to being stunned, you can use Staggering Palm to punch them down. After that, any attack you do will shoot out wind projectiles.
Fajne. Jak z
There are
Diablo
21
4 te
active skills for
projektile.
quarterstaves, so this just scratches the surface of the options that you have. By endgame, you'll be dashing from pack to pack, spewing projectiles and obliterating screens of enemies with huge combo attacks. Now, if you like a style of melee that's a little slower but hits much harder, then the warrior is for you. He pounds the ground with big chunky attacks and can shrug off the hits of small enemies with large amounts of armor. Even though the mace slams are slow, you never lose control. Longer attacks can be retargeted as you go,
ale
and
bije
if you
tą
find yourself
pałą.
committed to a long attack, you can dodge roll out of it at any
O,
time.
kurwa, to jest mięsista
Among the skill option
walka.
for maces, you will find a variety of slams, fire attacks, war cries, and shield skills. Here, I'm going to slam the ground, rending it apart with lines of fire. Any slam skill will then cause these fingers to erupt with lava. You can
Przebiegam
even run
przez
through them
nich.
with a skill like Stampede to do huge amounts of damage.
Nice! Ale to jest fizyka dobra
Warrior
w chuj,
can also
nie?
use war cries, which can empower your next skill.
Aż
Size
ściary
the
mnie
cry, for
przeszły,
example, will double any
słuchajcie.
slams from your next attack. The Stampede counts as a slam, so I can double that for even more craziness. If you want to go a little faster and be a little more defensive, equip a shield. In PoE 2, you can raise your shield at any time to block all damage from the front, even spells. While holding up your shield, your stun meter will build as you take damage, so be careful. If it reaches 100%, your stance will break and you will be vulnerable.
Ale moby fajne.
Some enemies also have unblockable attacks, which are indicated by this red flash.
Blokować
If you see one
bossa
of these
będzie
coming,
można?
make sure to dodge out of the way. Using a shield also gives you access to shield skills, like Shield Charge.
Ty
Allows
tu
you to
będzie
charge
blok jak w
towards enemies
Soulsach
and stun.
normalnie.
While charging,
Blok jest
you're
kurwa
also blocking the
blokiem.
whole
Pa!
time, so you have full damage immunity from the front.
Co jest kurwa?
It also has access to totems. Some totems have built-in abilities, like Shockwave Totem, which can be placed to stun nearby enemies and trigger aftershocks like those from the earthquake. But you can also get Ancestral Warrior Totems, which allow you to use any slam skill in your repertoire.
Ale to bardzo dobrze
This is a meta
zbalansuje
skill,
melee
which means that it's a
buildy.
skill you can put other skills into.
Bo
I can
buildy
take a
melee
slam like
z
Sunder
tarczą
and socket it into my Ancestral Warrior
będą o
Totem.
wiele bardziej
Now when I
defensywne
summon them,
dzięki
you'll sit
temu.
there and slam the monsters from a distance.
To jest dobra, to jest bardzo dobra
There are
decyzja.
20 active skills for maces, so
To
there's
jest
a lot more
genialna
to try out.
decyzja
But
designerska.
like Endgame,
W życiu bym
dropping
nie
hamsters
pomyślał,
from
żeby
the
dodać
sky,
taki
leaping
blok
fearlessly
kurwa do
into
hack and
combat,
slasha.
separating the very earth you stand on.
Ale w ogóle wiecie, jak to otwiera drogę na challenge robienia bossów, gdzie możesz
The Ranger is
blokować
primarily
ataki?
about the bow, but we wanted to make sure that she feels agile as well. In PoE 2, you can shoot while moving. Combined with all the skills the
Zajebiste
Ranger
jest
has
to,
that allow you
że
to jump
podczas
around, you'll
poruszania
have
się
a lot
strzelasz.
of mobility in combat. Bow skills have a variety of lightning, poison, ice, and physical attacks. Lightning attacks bounce around between targets. You can also stick lightning
Odbicie
arrows
ma
in the ground
lightning.
which explode when hit by the bouncers,
Czyli każdy
or electrocute enemies to take them
element
out of
ma
combat.
jakąś zasadę.
Ice
Zajebiście.
attacks later slow and freeze enemies to keep them away from you. Using poison, not only can you slowly damage your
Patrz, ile
enemies from
mobów.
afar, but also grow some interesting plants.
Będzie więcej kajtowania w tym pole, ale
With
mobów
21
jest
bow
dużo.
skills and all the mobility and combo tools the Ranger has, you can take advantage of every situation. By endgame, you'll be creating hundreds of arrows, be they falling from the sky, bouncing around between enemies, or spraying out of tornadoes. You might have noticed in the bottom left of the screen that the flask slots look a little different.
Aha.
In PoE 2, you have one dedicated life flask slot and one mana flask slot. Flasks gain charges as you kill enemies, and typically allow you to heal 6 or 7 times if they're full. But that's not the only thing you can use charges for. Charms are a new item type that will automatically defend you from various debuffs or damage types. Having trouble with getting frozen? Equip a Thawing Charm. When it's fully charged, it will make you immune to freeze for 3 seconds if you get frozen. To recharge them, just
Piotrka.
kill more monsters. You can gain more slots for charms by upgrading your belt.
Znaczy, Piotrek był chyba trochę inny. Pamiętam, mi Piotrek mówił
The
przed wyjazdem o
mercenary
tym.
wields a crossbow that can be loaded with different ammo types, offering versatility, power, and mobility. All classes in Path of Exile 2 can be controlled with WASD, which makes
Że
this
nie do
class
końca
play
pamiętam,
exactly
jaki
like a
był
shooter.
pomysł Piotrka, ale
For the
pamiętam, że było
crossbow,
to
you will
z
find skills that
spotkami.
work like shotguns, sniper rifles, assault rifles, and even grenade launchers. But not only that, there are a wide variety of more interesting elemental ammos too. It's very fast to switch between ammo types, so long as you already have them loaded, which makes the mercenary able to combo abilities together for devastating effect.
Zajebiste są te wybuchy.
Use Glacial Bolt to create walls of ice to separate enemies, then switch to fragmentation rounds to explode the ice, dealing massive AoE damage.
Co?
If they come across an armored
Możesz
enemy, I
niszczyć
could use
takie
armor
ściany
piercing rounds
lodu
and then
i
high velocity rounds
wybuchają.
to take them down. Or perhaps I could fire a gas grenade to poison enemies before detonating the cloud with an explosive shot
Ej,
for
oni w
massive
PoE
damage.
1 zrobili Visceral Combat, a teraz robią Environmental
If you
Combat.
want to call in some suppressing fire, you can summon artillery ballistas. These have a minimum range, so you'll want to prepare your position carefully before moving in. There are 22 active skills for crossbows. By endgame, you'll be calling destruction down from the sky as you litter the battlefield with grenades and pepper your enemies with your automatic shotgun. If you're looking to take a backseat and let your minions do the work, then the witch should be your choice. She can
Miniony.
call forth hordes of undead monsters to fight for
Samoniarze.
her while casting powerful chaos spells that debilitate her enemies. Occult skills are some of the most varied in the game, with skeletons, noxious spells, specialty minions, curses, and sacrificial magic. Before we talk about minions, we'll have to talk about a new resource in Path of Exile 2 called Spirit. This is a spirit gem, which allows you to pick from a range of persistent skills. All classes have a variety of these skills which can add some very interesting effects, like Arctic Armor, which does cold damage to enemies that hit you, or Raging Spirits, which summon fiery skulls each time you cast a fire spell. For the Witch, though, we'll want to be using our spirit to create permanent minions. These minions will be revived automatically when they die, so you don't have to worry about resummoning them all the time. Here, I'm using the skill screen to allocate which minions I would like in my horde. You can see the spirit cost of each one. Skeletal
Spirit
warriors
to
are
jest
cheap,
też
but
fajna
weak,
rzecz.
useful for tanking damage and distracting enemies. But I want more heavy hitters in my army, so I'm going to unsummon some warriors and instead add skeletal arsonists. Permanent minions come with special active abilities called command skills. You can order these guys
Tła
to
są
detonate your
bardzo
own
ładne,
minions
te
for even more
podłoża.
damage and area of effect. If you want a bigger army, you'll need a scepter. This new weapon type is imbued with even more spirit, allowing you to summon even more friends. And if you want an even bigger army than that, you can take advantage of corpses to summon true hordes of minions. But what can a witch do while her army is at work? Well, she has a range of chaos spells to spread disease amongst your enemies, or bone skills to impale them. Or, you know, you could curse them to make them weaker so
Dużo
your horde can take
zładowanych
them down.
ataków w tym PoE.
There are 25
Te
active
animacje
occult
rzucania
skills.
czarów są
By the endgame,
zajebiste.
you'll be the leader of a fearsome army of the dead, consuming everything in its path. The sorceress bends the elements to her will, using them to unleash devastation on her foes.
Kurwa, jaki
This
czar
classic
fajny.
spellcaster weaves a flurry of elemental magic from afar. The elemental skills have everything you might expect and more. Fireballs, icy explosions, lightning storms, you get the idea. Each spell is unique and has many different ways to build and combo with others, even between different elements. For example, Flame Wall conjures a burning line that not only damages enemies, but also empowers all projectiles that pass through it.
Co?
If you place a wall and fire lightning sparks through it, they'll
Ja
gain extra
pierdolę,
fire.
jakie zajebiste.
It's a good idea to take advantage of the
Oni
ability
robią
to
wszystko,
automatically
żebyś
swap
używał
weapons when you
więcej
use
niż
certain
jednego
skill.
elementu,
Having a
albo
special
więcej
staff
niż
with
jednego
bonuses to
spela.
fire skills and another with bonuses to lightning skills can really power up a combo like this. The sorceress can also
Całe
take advantage
robią
of
na
powerful
podstawie
trigger
kombosów.
gems. For example, you could grab the Cast and Ignite gem and use it with Firestorm. As you ignite enemies, a counter will go up in the top left corner. When it's full, a Firestorm will automatically be cast at the enemy that was ignited. There are 25 active elemental skills. By endgame, you'll be firing off projectiles left and right as you rain down elemental storms on your foes. Now, those are the characters that will be available at the start of early access, but we will be adding 6 more character classes with just as many skills and options as these. There's a lot more to come. There's one more important thing to mention about skills. Even though we talk about them as belong to each class, in reality there are no restrictions. You can use all these skills on any class so long as you have the attributes. For
Okej,
example,
czyli do
a
broni
poison
są
ranger might
przypisane
want to try
skille.
out using occult curses to increase her poison damage, or a monk might want to trigger elemental ice walls to use with his glacial cascade combo. The possibilities for cross-class combos are practically unlimited. We're looking forward to what kind of things you guys might find. Now, Path of Exile is a game known for build customization, and we haven't even scratched the surface of what is possible yet. So let's talk about support gems.
Aha.
Path of Exile 2 has a system of support gems that can be combined with your active skills to dramatically change the way they work. If you find a support gem, then right-clicking it will open up this screen. Here you will find a variety of recommended support gems for each of your skills that you can pick between. For example, this is a multiple projectiles support gem and can be used to add multiple projectiles to any skill. Normally, when you fire a grenade, it'll look like this. But if we add multiple projectiles, then you get 3 of them. Once you have the gem, you can also freely move it between any of the skills in your character. If you want to have a multi-shot sniper rifle instead, then simply move the gem over to your high-velocity round skill. Generally speaking, if it sounds like a support gem should work with a skill, then it will work. So it's a good idea to experiment. Note that you can only have one of each support gem on your character, so you'll want to think carefully about which supports can be used best with each skill for
Nie
maximum
da się mieć
damage.
2 tych samych supportów.
Now, if you want to stick to
To
the
też jest
recommendations,
zajebiste.
you should have a perfectly good time.
Nie,
But if you
to
want
jest
to
to
earn a bit
roguelike'owe
more,
się staje
then uncheck that
całkowicie.
recommended button and you can see the full list of supports that will work with your skill. There are hundreds of support gems to choose from, and even we don't know the results of all the
Jakie to
possible
jest
ways these can interact.
przejrzyste
Each
interfejsowo
skill
w
can have up
ogóle.
to 5 supports socketed into it, and if you're clever, you can come up with some pretty interesting ideas. Now, all of this is just scratching the surface. You can make frost vortexes, break people's armor, make minions explode, make skills repeat, make enemies set each other on fire, cull enemies, or pin them to the ground. Supports let you drastically change the behavior of your skills and create your own unique build, or at least follow someone's OP build guide. So, speaking of builds, let's talk about one of the most iconic Path of
drzewko
Exile
jest piękne.
systems, the passive skill tree. Yes, it's huge. There are over 1,500 nodes on there. Now, a lot of people open the tree and can get a little intimidated at first, but try not to be scared. There are lots of options, but at its core, it's pretty simple. Each level you get 1 point to put into the tree. Each class starts at a different location, but they all share the same tree. Around your section of the tree, you'll find relevant bonuses for your character. You should be safe in the knowledge that there aren't many wrong choices here. Almost all the starting nodes will be useful for your character in some way. But if you do happen to make a choice you regret, you'll be able to respec any nodes you've taken by spending a little bit of gold. Now, the tree is generally divided up
Staram
into
się to
clusters which have
znormalizować
similar
trochę.
themes.
Podejście do
In each
tego.
cluster, you will find small nodes that give simple bonuses like increased damage, but the real power comes from notables. Notables normally have much more interesting bonuses, and they tend to care a lot more about how your build works and what skills you're using. For example, in the mercenary area of the tree, this one gives a 25% chance for crossbow skills to not consume a bolt. And here's one that gives grenades a chance to blow up a second time. This one gives a chance for projectiles to rebound off terrain, as well as giving you some pierce chance to make that more likely.
Kurwa,
Note that
fajne
even though
nody.
this is in the mercenary section, this would work with projectiles from all classes, so there are often reasons to go to different areas of the tree. In order to get between these clusters, you will generally have to allocate nodes in the attribute highways. Attribute nodes allow you to pick which attribute you would like to use, so it's very easy to get points for any attribute that your gear might need. You can change which attribute these nodes give you for half price at the respec vendor. In addition to notables, you will also find even larger passives called keystones. Keystones have both an
pokazują.
upside and a downside, and often require changing your entire build to design around them. A great example is Giant's Blood, which allows you to wield 2-hand weapons in a single hand, but doubles the attribute requirements of them.
O,
You can use a
Titan's
2-hand
Grip.
mace with a shield, or even dual wield them. Or how about Mind Over Matter, which makes all damage go to your mana pool first before your life pool, but you lose 50% of your mana regen. Skills like these can be tough to build around, but if you're up for the challenge, they can be very
Kurwa, mam
rewarding.
znerfiony, nie?
As we showed you earlier on the Sorceress,
Tu mam,
you
tak?
can swap
Czy nie?
between weapon sets on the fly as
Bo
you use
obrazek
certain
wyglądał
skills.
podobnie.
One of the new features in Path of Exile 2's passive tree is that you can choose to have your passive tree change as you switch between weapon sets to take advantage of specific bonuses on the tree. For the sorceress, you might want to change between fire and lightning specialization. Or you could switch between one hand and a two-hand
Patrz,
setup
normalnie
in order to be
bossa
able to block
blokujesz.
boss attacks while
Jak w
following up with
Soulsach.
heavy hits from your bigger mace.
Kurwa, to już wiemy o co dramę kręcimy, że blokowanie jest dla
to
leśni,
debuff
nie?
enemies before switching to a chaos degen build for max.
Dobra, ja już kurwa myślę jak dramę o blokowanie
If you want to
rozkręcić.
stick with just one
I
weapon
Piotrka,
set,
teraz
you
ja
can
to,
just use
ja
these
jego wciągnę w
specialization
dramę,
points
nie
as
on
bonus
mnie.
points to invest however you like. But creative players will find plenty of opportunities with this system. You can get weapon specialization points throughout the campaign from optional bosses and quests. For example, if I manage to defeat the Crowbell, I'll get a weapon specialization book. There are lots of other permanent boosts available from the campaign too.
Aha, to
On the
jest
map, you can see
mapka
icons
Worda
that
po
indicate
prostu,
the many
okej.
optional encounters you can find. Some of them have permanent character boosts, and others have
Na
powerful
mapie
items.
wreszcie
If
widać,
you're having
gdzie
trouble
są.
getting past a boss, it might be a good idea to explore and see what you can find. For example, if you defeat Blackjaw the Remnant, you'll gain a permanent increase to fire resistance. One of the most important finds are
Dziwny
spirit
hitbox miał
bonuses.
ten atak
You
z
can
tyłu.
find the first one here in the canopy in Act 1. Defeat the boss in this area to acquire a permanent addition of spirit. The permanent buffs you gain from spirit are very powerful.
Ej,
And every class will find a
wiecie
use for them.
co jest
so make sure you hunt
najlepszym
down these
sposobem,
upgrades.
żeby
There's one
nauczyć się
in each
gry w
act.
PoE teraz?
Now we haven't even talked about
Curse
the
of
most
the Dead
important
Gods.
element of character progression.
I nie
items.
tylko dlatego,
That's
że
why
jest
we're all
gigatani
here,
na
right?
instant gaming. To jest
Items in Path of
izometryczna
Exile can be
gra,
broken down into
gdzie
four
robisz
rarity
buildy i
groups.
walczysz z
Normal,
bossami.
magic,
I
rare,
masz
and
blokowanie
unique.
i parowanie.
One of
Ja
the
myślę,
things
że
you're going to
Curse
want to do
będzie
as you play
świetnym
through the campaign
przygotowaniem
is
pod
upgrade the
PoE.
items you find. And you can do that with currency items.
Albo No Rest
An
for the
Orb of
Wicked, no?
Transmutation will allow you to upgrade a normal item to a magic item with one mod. You can then apply an Orb of Augmentation to add a second mod, then use a Regal Orb to add a third mod, and upgrade it to a rare.
Ale są
Finally, you can use
efekty!
some Exalted Orbs to add
jakie
more
są
mods to
efekty,
your
jak
rare
orbów
to a total
używasz?
of 6 mods. One of the things we think is really important is to make these options available to use as you play. All the items that add mods are much more common than they were in Path of Exile 1,
Oh.
so that you can use them throughout your campaign playthrough. We want you to find things on the ground that can be crafted into upgrades much more frequently. As well as making the drop rates on these items much more common, you can also get them by disenchanting unwanted gear at the magic item vendor. If you disenchant magic items, you can build up to an Orb of Transmutation, and by disenchanting rares, you can build up to Regal Orbs.
Powtórzy tytuł.
Another important area of
I
crafting
jak najbardziej,
items in
masz
Hero 2
stary
is
na
sockets.
instant gaming. Pa,
Some items
Curse
you
of
find will have sockets
the
that can have
Dead
Ezomite
Gods.
runes
Za
placed in
dychę
them
to
that
idzie
add more mods
kupić.
to the item. If I insert this glacial rune
Świetny
into my
roguelike.
helmet, it will give extra
A
cold
wydaje mi się, że
resistance.
naprawdę, ja będę
This
grał
is
w
a
niego na
great way to
streamie.
solve problems that you have with your build, like resistances or damage. If you find
Rudy,
socketed
co?
items that you don't have a use for, you can take them to the salvage bench in town to work towards an Artificer's Orb. This will allow you to add sockets to your existing items. Body armors and two-hand weapons can have up to 2 sockets, while the rest of your armor and one-hand weapons can only have 1 socket.
Aha, czyli single i
You
double
can also
sockety.
salvage items with quality to create items like armor scraps or whetstones. These will allow you to increase the quality of your items for an up to 20% boost.
Można niszczyć itemy na
If you
resource,
don't want to
okej.
disenchant or salvage your items, you can always sell them for gold. Gold can be used to buy items from vendors, and we've tried to do a lot to make sure that the items they have for sale are
A żeby
useful.
się to nie zmieniło w
Every time
Diablo
you level
3,
up,
gdzie
they get more
podnosisz
stock,
wszystkie
so
przedmioty
make
i
sure
idziesz
to
się
check
robić
back
salvage all, nie?
Other vendors offer a gamble. Pay a flat amount of gold and you'll get a random item of a specific type. This could be a great way to improve your gear, if you're lucky. Gold is also used to respec your passive skills. Take advantage of this system to experiment with your tree and rework it as required. The other thing you might want to use gold for is the currency exchange. This allows you to exchange currency items with other
będzie
players
Action
on an
House'a.
open market, in exchange for a small gold fee. Now, all items in Path of Exile are freely tradable. We never bind anything to your character, except gold. Now, most gear in Path of Exile 2 is randomly generated, but there's another type that isn't. Uniques. They are especially rare, each with a handcrafted set of unusual
podoba mi
mods
się
which
to,
can
że robią
dramatically change
takie-
a character's build.
Że dużo
They're not
nowych
just
graczy
better rare
starają się
items.
przyciągnąć
They
i
can do
tłumaczą
much
wszystkie
stranger
mechaniki
things that can
zajebiście.
fundamentally change your character. Corpse Wade will make any corpses you run through explode into clouds of poison.
A!
The Sands of Silk is a body armor that changes your dodge roll into a blink, morphing you into sand as you teleport past your foes.
Jaka
And of
zajebista.
course, some uniques are just pure hits of dopamine, like Quill Rain, which just turns your bow attacks into full auto by doubling your attack speed. Each unique is something that you can build your character around. We try to make sure that most unique items have a potential use at endgame, even if you find them early on. And as you can see, every single unique item comes with custom art to match. The last character progression system that you can do during the campaign is Ascension. Starting in Act 2, you will come across Ascension trials, tests that you must complete to unlock your Ascension class. We'll explain these trials soon, but first let's take a look at what Ascending can do for your character. Each class has access to 3 Ascendancy classes, but at the start of Early Access, only 2 per class will be available. Ascendancy classes are unique to each character class, so choose wisely. They can drastically affect how you build your character. As a sorceress, you could become a Stormweaver, a master of the elements. Tempest Caller causes elemental storms to be summoned each time you do a critical hit with a spell.
O kurwa, podkryty.
With Strike twice, you can stack 2 copies of Shock for more damage. And going deeper into the tree, you can make all your damage types apply Shock. Make a Shock build from any skill.
A to było w pojedynce.
Alternatively, you could become a Chronomancer and command time itself. She literally has the ability to stop time with Time Freeze. Not only that, but she has many other time manipulation abilities. Using Temporal Rift, she can teleport back to a previous location, resetting her life
Ja
and mana back to
pierdolę,
what
jaki
it was.
movement na
Or
bossu.
with Time Snap, she can reset all her cooldowns and cast all her spells again.
Ale to będzie
On the
skomplikowana
warrior, you can
klasa.
choose between the Warbringer or the Titan. The Warbringer channels the might of his ancestors to gain tremendous power. Using Answered Call, you can summon ancestral spirits linked to each of your totems. With Jade Heritage, you can encase your body in a protective layer that absorbs all damage until it breaks. Warcaller's Bellow allows you to explode the corpses of your enemies. And with Great Wolf's Howl, you can ignore the cooldowns of your war cries. Let all that anger out. The Titan class is all about hitting big. With Earthbreaker, every slam is a chance to create an aftershock. With Crushing Impacts, every hit becomes a crushing blow, which will allow you to stun your enemies with ease. With Surprising Strength, you can take advantage of stunned enemies to deal 40% more damage.
Nieciekawy Warrior się wydaje.
As a ranger, you might choose to be a Deadeye, an expert markswoman who can take down foes with style. With Endless Munitions, every attack gains an extra projectile.
O!
With
Nice.
Gathering Winds, she gains a small increase to movement speed with every attack. But be careful, she loses them when getting hit.
Ale do
With Eagle
kajtowania.
Eyes, she will never miss, allowing you to stop wasting all those passive points on
No
accuracy.
accuracy penalty at distance. Co ty gadasz?
Alternatively, you could become a Pathfinder, the master of flasks and poison. She can choose from one of several throwable concoctions,
Ranger
allowing her to
fajny.
spend her flask charges to throw explosive bottles that deal various types of damage. A bleeding
Defensywa,
concoction will make your
ofensywa.
enemies bleed, while a fulminating one can shock your enemies, allowing you to do extra damage. Contagious Contamination allows her to spread poisons between her foes, while Overwhelming Toxicity doubles the number of stacks they can be infected by. Running Assault allows her to move much more quickly while firing, while Relentless Pursuit makes her totally immune to being slowed by enemies. The Witch can ascend into the Infernalist or the Blood Mage. As an Infernalist, she can summon a loyal Hellhound companion. The Hellhound sets enemies on fire, as well as taking a percentage of the damage if the Infernalist gets hit.
To Witchka, tak?
With Pyromantic Pact, you can turn your mana into Infernal Flame. As you cast more spells, the flame builds up, and if it overflows, you'll take damage. Using Bringer of Flame, you'll want to make sure you keep the flames topped up. While your Infernal Flame is above 30%, all damage from you and your minions will ignite enemies. She can also transform into a literal demon.
Wow!
While in demon form, she takes an increasing amount of damage, but her cast speed and damage increase rapidly as well. So if you're planning on transforming
Ofensywny
into a demon,
cooldown całkowicie.
make sure you
Ale
stack a lot of
zajebista
life recovery.
animacja.
She can also become a Blood Mage, a master of life and energy. All Blood Mages must pay the price of making skills cost life as well as mana, but in exchange, every monster they kill will drop life remnants, which allow them to quickly gain back that life. With Crimson Power, she can gain large amounts of extra life, and with Vitality Siphon, she can use her spells to leech life back as well. Once you've got a significant amount of life, you can use Gore Spike to make your critical hits deal incredible amounts of damage. A monk who is in tune with the elements might become an Invoker. With Elemental Expression, the Invoker will create waves of elemental power each time he does a critical strike. With Faith as a choice, you gain the ability to meditate, allowing you to double your energy shield. Choose between I am the Blizzard or I am the Thunder to to specialize in cold or lightning.
I am the
And
Blizzard.
I Shall Rage will allow you to turn into an unbound avatar. Each time you apply a status ailment to an enemy, you gain Unbound Fury. When you have enough, transform into an avatar to deal way more damage and inflict even more elemental ailments. Some monks choose to reach into the darkness instead. The Acolyte of Chayula can exchange their mastery of spirit for darkness, a resource that can be utilized to both absorb and deal damage. The Shroud of Darkness will protect you from all damage incoming, but if you take Grasp of the Void, you will deal extra chaos damage from all the darkness you have. Their Dark Pact offers greatly increased resistances to chaos damage and can allow their mana leech to not only happen instantly, but apply to their energy shield as well.
O kurwa, jak
Another node you can take
zajebiste.
is Waking Dream, which allows you to see into the
A
domain of the
jest
Breach
najlepszy mi się jak na razie wydaje.
There you will see the Flames of Chayula that can be taken to gain life, mana, and damage. The Mercenary has a job to do, but which job suits you? You might choose to become a Witch Hunter.
On się giga silny
Obsessive
wydaje, nie?
Rituals will give you a sorcery ward, allowing you to defend yourself against elemental hits in exchange for less defense against attacks. With Zealous Inquisition, your enemies have a 10% chance to explode on death. The chance is doubled against demons and undead. With Judge, Jury, and Executioner, your initial hit against enemies can deal up to 30% of their life and damage, if you're lucky. This is great for hunting powerful bosses.
Co kurwa?
And with Witchbane, you can break your enemy's
Crashing blowa
concentration,
dali,
preventing
dopołe.
them from casting spells as often as they would usually do. You could also choose to become a Gemling Legionnaire, enhancing your abilities by embedding
To jest za
gems
silne moim
directly in
zdaniem
your
na
flesh.
bossów.
Integrated Efficiency will give you extra skill slots. Thermatological Infusion gives you extra maximum resistances as you sock up more and more support.
To też giga dobre.
Adaptive Capability allows you to use any color of gem without worrying about attributes, while Crystalline Potential adds extra quality bonuses to every gem socketed into your character.
Ej, strasznie
So
silny się
those are the Ascendancy
wydaje.
classes for the start of Early Access. But one thing we haven't talked about yet is how you ascend in the first place. Ascension in Path of Exile 2 requires completion of one of the Great Trials, which you'll find as you progress through the campaign. Each one is associated with one of the major cultures of Rayclast. Located in the Vasteri Plains are the Maraketh, a culture of
Nie,
rich
no to
tales and
broken
brutal
wyglądają
traditions,
te dwie
who must do
klasy.
whatever it takes to survive in the desert. The highest position in Maraketh culture is a Sekima, and it is not a title given freely. All aspirants must complete the Trial of the Sekimas,
Ale
a
ładne.
grueling gauntlet that will test their strength, will, cunning, and patience. To enter, a warrior of the Maraketh must prove their worth by trapping the soul of a djinn in a coin, and you are no different. Once you have earned your coin, it may be placed on the relic altar to begin the trial.
Labik nowy.
In the Trial of the Sekimas, each room has its own challenges to overcome. In this room, each rare monster you kill will send its blood to the chalice in the center of the room. Once the chalice is filled, you will be able to proceed.
Greater Rift.
While fighting monsters in the trial, you will need to be very careful. Each hit will not only hurt you, but will damage your honor.
O,
The
to
monsters are
sanctum.
well telegraphed, so that you can avoid their attacks, but if you run out of honor, you will fail the trial and need to find
O
another
kurwa,
coin in order to
sanctum.
try again. It is a good idea to make sure that you are well prepared before challenging the Trial of the Sekimas. After each room, you will be rewarded. In this case, you have been given a key that can be used to unlock chests later in the trial. Once you have claimed your reward, you will be shown a map of the rest of the floor and may choose how you wish to proceed. Which challenges would you like
Sanctum,
and which rewards do you want to claim? Some rooms are more dangerous, afflicting you with debuffs that will persist for the entire trial. For example, entering this room will
Sanctum
afflict you with
staje się
spiked
nowymi
shell
labami.
that will cause all monsters in the rest of the trial
A
to
ludzie
have
lubili
50%
bardzo
increased
Sanctum, nie?
life.
Ale
You will want
zobaczcie,
to
że
take care
Sanctum jest
if you choose
zbudowane
such a
wokół
path.
nieotrzymywania hitów.
There are many different challenges and rewards as you journey through the trial.
To ludzie
Deadly
to
traps,
niektórzy znienawidzą, ale oni
waves of
chcą
monsters,
zrobić poe wokół nieotrzymywania hitów.
and strange
Oni idą z
artifacts
duchem
will
czasu.
test.
Poe ma być souls-like'owe. Ty
As
nie
you
masz
progress, you'll be able to
przytankować,
gain
ty masz ich nie
boons from the
otrzymywać.
djinn, which will help you on your journey. For example, the Sekima's cloak will revive you once if you die, giving you a second shot at a run. One of the rewards you may find is Sacred Water, an extremely valuable and treasured resource to the djinn and the Maraketh. Trading it with the djinn will allow you to receive many benefits. You can recover honor, gain additional boons, or remove afflictions. At the end of the floor, you'll find a powerful boss which will truly test your limitations. In order to ascend, you will need to defeat him. Having defeated the boss, you've earned the right to ascend. But first, the loot. The keys you have found may be used to open the various treasures in the vault at the end of the floor. We only have a single bronze key, so we'll just have to open one of these small chests. If you want to open the better ones, you'll need silver or gold keys. Let's use the Altar of Ascendancy. Your first ascension will allow you to pick your class and grant you 2 points to use in the tree. Now there are more floors and many more rewards that can be found within the Trial of the Sekimus, but we'll save that for the section on the endgame. For now, let's talk about the second ascendancy trial, the Trial of Chaos. In Path of Exile 2, you can choose whichever trial you like to earn your ascension. Each culture on Rayclast had their own methods to ascend. If the Trial of the Sekimus is not your kind of playstyle, or you're finding it too difficult, you could try another. You can gain all your ascension points from just one, or mix and match them. It's up to you. For early access, we will have 2 trials as options, with the third trial coming later
Każda
for the full
klasa ma
release.
inną metodę ascendancji.
While exploring the Vaal jungle, you'll discover the Temple of Chaos.
Ale
Before
będziesz
the
mógł
Vaal
użyć z
embraced
innej
the science of
klasy?
corruption, their civilization worshipped chaos.
Możesz wybrać.
This ancient trial was once used by the
Czyli
Vaal
możesz
to
sobie
test their
zrobić
high priests.
ascendancję tak jakby,
A high priest of the Vaal must show
którą robią
willingness to risk
warriorzy.
everything to gain power.
Jak nie lubisz Sanctum.
Entry to the trial requires
O!
a token from a strange
Patrz,
entity
moje
known only
ulubione.
as the Trial Master. For those in which he sees potential, he shall inscribe an ultimatum.
Co ty gadasz, że
Many
ultimatum
have
jako
attempted these trials
ascendancja?
in search of greatness. Most have perished. Will you be able to defy the odds? Before you begin each chamber, the Trial Master will offer you a reward and a choice. Choose one of 3 tribulations to affect you through the rest of the trial. These modifiers might beef up the monsters, curse the player, or add environmental hazards like turrets or trap runes. In this case, we'll be picking shocking turrets. As you enter the room, the Trial Master will fill it with hazards to test your commitment. In this case, you must destroy all the monsters that fill the room, while dealing with the lightning
Ale
projectiles from the
wejście
shocking
zajebiste.
turrets. After each room, you will need to make a choice. Take the rewards you have earned so far, or go double or nothing. Increase your rewards, but take on more risk. Each tribulation you add is minor on its own, but they quickly stack on top of each other and can become overwhelming. There are many types of chambers in the trial. Each will test your resolve in different ways.
Jest
This
klimacik,
one simply
no.
requires you survive for a certain amount of time.
Ale jaki
Another
damage moby
requires you
walą,
to escort the
widzicie?
stone idol through the level as elevators full of monsters descend to attack you. Should you be able to get through the first 3 chambers, you will face your first boss. The order of the bosses is random, and combined with the tribulations you have selected, the fight will never feel the same. After
Zajebiste
defeating the
są te
boss, you may
koncepty
claim your
bossów.
rewards. Of course there are the items, but you also gain the right to ascend. If you already did the Trial of the Sekimus, then you can claim 2 more points to add to your Ascendancy class. Now it's possible to go much deeper. There are more bosses, rewards, and risks to take, but we'll talk more about that when we get to Endgame. So how about we talk about that now? So far we've only been showing you footage from the campaign, but some people would argue that the Endgame is where the game truly begins. Something that happens almost every time a new action RPG launches is people saying, there isn't enough Endgame content. Well, we want to make sure that in PoE 2 people don't feel that way. And we actually only changed our development priority for
Lać mi
this
się
recently.
chce. Mogliby
The
zapauzować.
first 3 acts of PoE 2 already take around 25 hours to complete if you're a new player. This is already a pretty significant campaign. On the other hand, people spend hundreds of hours in Endgame each league. We realized that finishing the rest of the campaign for early access was actually a bad idea. Instead of having acts 4 to 6 in early access, we could concentrate on Endgame and make that great. For new players, a 25-hour campaign is already a huge game with lots of content. But for existing action RPG players, what you mostly care about is all the endgame challenges to overcome. So several months ago, we switched the entire development team's focus over to making endgame content.
Zajebiście.
At the start of early access, there will be 50 bosses and around 400 monster types. But the great thing is that the rest of the game is like 80% there. We'll be adding content to roughly double the size of the game during early access and into release. Now, in order to make the endgame happen at the same character level as what it would be after we added the rest of the acts, we've added a second difficulty level called Cruel, where you repeat the campaign with all the monsters and bosses leveled up. And of course, new rewards. You can kind of think of it as like a new game plus. It's also a lot faster to get through the content the second time as your clear speed increases. That will take you to around level 65, where the endgame begins.
Czyli robisz 2 razy,
Once we
musisz
add the
zrobić
remaining 3
akty?
acts, we'll be removing Cruel
Kurwa, ja
difficulty,
myślałem, że
so you'll
będzie
progress
szybciej
straight from
dzięki
the end of
temu.
Act 6 to endgame.
Czyli musisz przejść grę na
But
normalu
what
i
is
na
the
Nightmare'ze teraz.
To explain that, I'll hand over to Mark. He can tell you all about
Musisz
it.
zrobić 2 razy kampanię.
Hi, I'm Mark Roberts, Game Director on Path of Exile 2. Well, one thing that Path of Exile is known for
Myślałem,
is
że będzie
having
można
a lot
więcej
of
buildów
distinct in-game content to
potestować,
choose
wiecie?
between.
Dlatego, że będą 3
Each
akty.
in-game mechanic needs to have its own progression system, areas, bosses, rewards, and player power that can only be gained from that content. We are going to be adding a lot more over time, but for Path of Exile 2 we decided to start with 7 distinct systems you can progress through.
This is the Atlas, and it
Atlas,
serves as the
no.
core of the endgame for Path of Exile 2. It's infinite and expands in all directions. Now, we are not going to spoil the plot too much here, but corruption from the beast has blighted the land, and your objective is to help fight it. In the center of the Atlas, you will find the
Heroes.
Ziggurat, a temple in which the Val research the fundamentals of space and time. Here, we can open portals to nearby locations and begin cleansing corruption and finding resources. In order to power the portal device, we will need waystones. Each waystone has a tier which will determine the level of the monsters that you will face. To go to an area, simply click one that is adjacent to an area that you have already completed. Insert the waystone and click Traverse. Portals will open, allowing you and your party to travel to the area you
Czyli
have
musisz
selected.
mieć portal,
All
ale
the
nie
areas
masz
in the
mapek
endgame
na
feel
zasadzie
distinct
mapek.
from the locations in the campaign.
Flicker!
And we have dialed the randomization up to 11. The monster packs you will face in each map are totally
Jezu!
random, and the combination of them can lead to some
Jaki
very
piękny!
interesting combat situations. There are over 400 monster types in early access, and they have a lot of varied and interesting abilities.
Yes,
Depending on which
flicker!
combinations you face, you might find some serious challenges. In order to cleanse the corruption from the area, you will need to defeat all the powerful rare and unique enemies in it. Once you have done that, the area will be marked as completed and you will be able to travel past it to progress deeper into the world. If you die, then the map can no longer be run, and you will have to find another way around to get to the areas behind it. There are also all kinds of other random encounters you might run into as you play maps. One such encounter are precursor artifacts. These are ancient, corrupting monuments that irradiate the monsters around them. The monsters that feed off the corruption are drawn to their power. If you defeat the monsters and cleanse the artifact, you will get a powerful
FPS jeszcze
temporary
lecą, nie?
buff.
Momentami.
Some of the buffs make you faster, others rain lightning or fire around you, and some even give you increased experience or help you find better items. You can also find strong boxes. These enigmatic chests guard piles of treasure, but are always a trap. Monsters lie in wait to attack you the moment you open it, and the boxes often have mechanisms to unleash powerful spells or dangerous debuffs. There are different types of strong boxes containing different items, and you can even use your currency items to craft them
Czemu
on the
tak
fly,
wolno
so you
się
can
otwiera?
optimize the content. But be careful of opening one you can't handle.
W ogóle mapa się zamknęła jak na ritualu, nie?
Sometimes you'll discover monsters frozen in essences, solidified crystalline corruption. These dangerous monsters can be broken free. If you defeat
Ty,
them,
wzięli
the essence they
te
drop
takie
can be used to upgrade
najprostsze
normal
mechaniki
items to
z
magic
PoE.
items with a guaranteed mod from a category.
Strongboxy, esencje. Co tam było wcześniej, nie
For
pamiętam.
example, we could use this one on some boots to ensure a movement speed mod.
Zajebiście. Moje ulubione
Rarely,
mechaniki
essences
wzięli.
will also drop that allow you to upgrade magics to rares,
Szrajny.
adding the guaranteed mod.
No.
This is incredibly powerful since it allows you to get a second deterministic mod in your crafting projects. Combining these with the currencies that are commonly found in Rayclast for modifying items, and we can get a very nice pair of boots indeed.
Kurwa. Double res, życie ma na
Waystones,
MS.
like all items, can also be crafted using your currency items. Adding prefix mods will improve the rewards, while suffix mods increase danger. The more dangerous a map is, the more waystones will drop. Adding mods to your waystones is key to progressing to higher tiers and sustaining them, but it will require you to take on larger challenges. There are a variety of factors you'll have to consider when crafting your waystones. Some maps will have higher density, some lower, some have more magic and rare chests, or monsters, some are more linear, and others more open. Make sure you explore and think about what makes certain maps good if you want to maximize your returns. As you cleanse corruption from higher and higher tiers of the Atlas, you will gain points that you can spend in the Atlas tree. This tree allows you to juice the danger and rewards of all areas in the endgame.
Ale Atlas jest
You could
rozdzielony,
increase the number
widzicie?
of monsters, the number of rares, the number of precursor artifacts or strongboxes, even the quantity of item drops. As you explore the endgame world map, you'll notice various different biomes, from snow-capped mountains to dense jungle valleys. Most maps are restricted to certain biomes. As you continue to explore deeper into the Atlas, there are all sorts of things to discover. These cities are constructed by different peoples of Rayclast and have specific items that can be found there. These strange structures marked on the map don't appear to do anything for now. Perhaps you'll work out how to use them later. You might find unique maps like Untainted Paradise, an undisturbed island full of beasts that give an extreme amount of experience. You may even find a lonely man just enjoying his retirement who will give you a unique item for free. In addition, you can find special areas that would make a good spot to set up camp. Clear these areas of their hostile inhabitants, and you'll be able to claim them as your own hideout. You can decorate your hideout as you see fit and invite various NPCs to join you there to create your own personal base of operations. A great tool for exploration are towers. These mysterious precursor constructs are dotted around the Atlas.
Mega mi się podoba, że jest wertykalne takie topowe. Patrzcie, jakie są wysokie budynki, jaką perspektywę to daje,
There are lots
nie?
of things to find, so keep looking. Some sections of your atlas are influenced by corruption. This adds extra modifiers to the maps in the region, increasing difficulty and rewards. Here, slaying monsters in close proximity to each other will cause the vestiges of corruption within them to merge together, forming powerful and grotesque abominations. You may have noticed while looking at the atlas that some of the areas have these icons above them. The icon indicates that the area contains some kind of special encounter. This icon indicates that the area has a powerful boss. Because only 1 in 4 maps contain a map boss, we are able to make them very powerful and very rewarding. These bosses come from the campaign, but have had their difficulty increased with
Co są
changes
za
to
liczby na
AI
samej
and some of
górze?
their
Damage
abilities.
zadany.
It's worth noting that because you can
Nice.
see where the bosses are, you can choose to take them on or avoid them. If you do choose to hunt bosses though, then you will be rewarded with
Będzie można
special
hity
points for the
bronić,
boss hunting
liczyć.
section of the Atlas skill tree. The points here will allow you to specialize in boss killing, giving you much greater rewards for defeating them. For each different type of content in the endgame, we are adding specialized trees in order to make it so you don't feel the need to
Zobaczcie, że
respec your
są
points when you change
właśnie
between
drzewka
different
po
types of
boku, nie?
content. We
To
will be
jest
showing you
zajebiste.
7 of these by the end of this presentation, so there is still a lot more to come. Bosses are not the only icon you will see on the
Ej,
Atlas.
musicie wylać,
Let's
bo
take
się
a look at
zeszczam.
one of the endgame systems, Breach. If you played PoE 1, you might be familiar with Breach. For PoE 2, we have created sequels to several PoE 1 leagues. While the mechanic is familiar, the monsters, bosses, rewards, and progression are all new. A breach is a tear in the fabric of reality. Opening it will allow you to see the demons and otherworldly monstrosities that lie in wait on this other plane of existence. By engaging with a breach, you'll create a bridge between their world and Rayclast. In order to keep the breach open, you will need to kill the demons that pour forth. The faster you can kill the monsters, the more monsters you will fight, and the more loot you will find. You can also find clasped hands that will open and drop more items if you run over them. These can be a good boost to the rewards of the breach, so keep an eye out. One of the rewards that you may find while fighting monsters from Breach are tablets. Tablets are special items that can be used with precursor towers to add more encounters to the Atlas. Breaches will drop breach tablets. Clicking on a completed tower will allow you to consume the tablet to add more breaches to areas within range of the tower. This makes all the content in the Atlas self-sustaining. Want to do more breaches? Find the tablets,
Wiem, że
add
breache
them to your
są.
towers, get more breaches, getting more tablets. Soon your Atlas will be covered in otherworldly domains. In addition, like all items in PoE, you can craft them. Use your currency to add mods to your tablets, allowing you to upgrade all the breaches in range. Tablets can have up to 2 mods. These mods do things like adding extra rare monsters, extra clasped hands, or even monster density of breaches, allowing you to keep them open longer. Often, you will find multiple towers near to each other with overlapping areas of effect. This can allow you to really juice the mechanic by stacking the mods from multiple tablets. In your fight to hold the breach demons at bay, you may want to use the powers of their world against them. Each endgame mechanic always has player power that can only be gained from that mechanic, and Breach is no different. In Breach, you will find
Widzieliście
catalysts,
tego?
items that can increase the
Norwa?
quality of rings and amulets by improving specific mods. You can also find Breach Rings, a special base type that can have its quality improved by catalysts up to 50%. In this case, you could create a ring with around 170 life. Breach Rings can become some of the strongest rings in the game, giving you some good motivation to face the demon hordes. In addition, each endgame mechanic needs to have a pinnacle endgame encounter. While killing Breach monsters, you may find Breach Splinters. Collect enough of these and you'll be able to create a Breach Stone. Using a vile technology called the Realm Gate, you can use your Breach Stone to access their domain and bring the fight to them. In this twisted domain, you will find nothing but a single massive breach. Triggering it will reveal hordes of breach
Ciekawe, czy
inhabitants.
simulacrum dodadzą, nie? To jest delirium. Flicker S.
And should you be fast enough, you will be able to fight their leader, Zesht.
Ale
Be
cień
that a
ładny. Było? Lustro na mapkach, nie zwróciłem uwagi. Jakie ma wyjście zajebiste, jak się odkleja. 2 dłonie jako skrzydła, jaki kurwa design. Ale design zajebisty. Kurwa, stary, jak wyglądają ci bossowie.
This is just one of the pinnacle encounters of PoE 2. We won't
Jakie
be showing the
kolory
rest of
ładne.
them, so you will have to discover them for yourself. But rest assured, this is some of the hardest content we have ever made. All these encounters have specific uniques that can only be found from them, but that's not all. We still have the progression system. Defeating Zesht will give you points to allocate into the breach section of the Atlas tree. Allocating these points will make breaches and the breach domain even harder, but will give you more rewards. The small nodes will increase the difficulty of the twisted domain, while the large nodes have more specific bonuses. For example, this node adds more clasped hands to your breaches, and adds a pack of magic monsters that can guard them. Get some more points and you can allocate Waking Nightmare, which will double the number of splinters you get from clasped hands, and inflict you with a mysterious debuff. In order to earn more points, you will need to defeat Zesht at a higher difficulty, and some rewards from Zesht can only be found by increasing the difficulty of the Twisted Domain above certain thresholds. Defeating Zesht at difficulty 4 will be a challenge indeed, but there are
Nie
many
wydaje
more
się, że
threats
miał
in
dużo
Break
życia.
Fast.
200k zadał, a tam byli
Ritual altars
jakieś
are
wcześniej
sacrificial
bossowie.
sites built by the mysterious King in the Mists. If you encounter this symbol on the Atlas,
King
then
of
you
the
know
Mist.
that the area contains ritual altars. Ritual altars
Tak, z
demand
rytualem
tribute.
go połączyli.
Every monster you
Myślałem,
slaughter
że
in
z
the circle
ognikami
will feed
połączą.
the altar. After the sacrifice, touch it to begin the ritual. The monsters
Kurwa,
you
to
just
dobrze,
killed
że
will
te
be
rytuale.
resurrected by the King of
Ja
the
nie
Mist's
lubię kurwa
dark
tej
magic,
mechaniki. Jak się
and you
nazywa
must
ta
fight to
mechanika z
survive.
tej nowej ligi? 2 ligi temu, jak się liga nazywała?
The tribute you have offered to the altar can be spent to buy powerful items, but they can be expensive.
Affliction. Ja
To
nie
gain
lubię
more tribute,
kurwa
you
tej
will want to
mechaniki.
find more altars. Each successive ritual you do within an area will spawn the monsters revived by the previous ones, in addition to the ones you sacrifice next to it. By the end of an area, you'll be fighting a truly imposing number of foes, but will have a significant amount of tribute to spend. One of the rewards you can buy with tribute are omens. These are special items that allow for metacrafting. Crafting items that affect other crafting items. Have an item with good prefixes but bad suffixes? This omen will help you to remove the mod you don't want while keeping the ones you do. There are a bunch more of these with different effects, but we will leave them for you to discover. Now don't forget that Ritual will also drop tablets, which can be used to specialize into getting more rituals. If you want to get to the pinnacle boss of Ritual, then you will probably want to use them. They can also be crafted to grant mods, making your rituals more rewarding. The pinnacle encounter of Ritual is the King in the Mists. Feared by the Azmeri people, he is said to have brought
Ciekawe, czy będzie na
eternal
nowo
darkness to the
zrobione.
Wildwood. We
To już
won't
był
show the
content z
encounter,
PE2
but just like
wyciągnięty.
Breach, there are a range of
Okej,
unique
będzie
items you
nowy.
can get for defeating him.
Kurwa,
And you
nienawidzę
will
tej
gain points
mechaniki
in the
biegania
ritual
za tymi
section of the
ognikami.
Atlas tree. Some maps have been touched by insanity.
Jo,
A mysterious
delirium,
entity
yes!
has taken a special interest in you.
Kurwa,
Step through the looking glass
najlepszy
and you will find
podklikera
your
gówno.
nightmares coming to life. When you touch a mirror, the mists of delirium will spread out across the area, infecting your mind. You must stay within the mist to maintain the nightmare, which is as profitable as it is terrifying. Everything you kill will increase the rewards that drop. However, the deeper into the mist you travel, the stronger the monsters are. Be careful not to overstay your welcome. Rare and unique enemies will become vessels for terrifying demons, who will manifest out of them to unleash powerful attacks on you. The mist also offers a strange crafting material, distilled emotions. By combining these emotions, you are able to instill your amulet with a notable from the passive skill tree. This is like gaining an extra passive
O kurwa,
point for free
wywalili
attached to your
tego.
gear. They are also particularly great
wyjebali
because you don't
olejki.
have to traverse the tree to get them, allowing you to get off-class bonuses that would normally be much harder to get.
Zajebiście.
Distilled
Blight to
emotions can
gówno.
also be used to instill your
No do
applying
delirium
delirious
dodali
to them
olejki.
and adding
W
additional
chuj dobre
difficulty
decyzje
and
moim zdaniem.
rewards,
Nie wiem, ja
allowing you
nienawidzę
to further
Blighta.
juice your in-game maps. The tablets you can find from Delirium can further
Wszyscy,
improve
wszystkie
it,
10
increase
fanów
pack size,
Blighta
make the
poczuło się
fog
pewnie
dissipate
oburzonych,
slower,
nie?
or improve your progress towards the pinnacle encounter of Delirium. Speaking of which, every now and then you will find simulacrum splinters. The mysterious entity will create strange encounters based on warped versions of your own memories. Monsters and simulacrums come in waves that get progressively more difficult.
Kurwa,
You will receive
simulacrum.
loot at the end of each wave, and you will have to make the
Ej, w
decision
ogóle
to leave
zmieni...
now or
Chuj,
continue on,
czemu jest takie
facing
małe
up
simulacrum, jak
against even tougher foes
zajebiście?
from the mist. The bosses you will face as you get deeper
I
into the
bez
simulacrum
simulacrum
are
dosłownie
truly
będziesz
terrifying.
bossa potem robił wreszcie normalnego, a
If
nie
you can
DPS
complete the
czeka.
simulacrum, you will gain points for the Delirium section of the Atlas
Nie, no
skill tree.
simulacrum najlepsza mechanika to
Next
będzie w
up, we
PoE.
have Expedition. Occasionally, while clearing corruption, you will encounter these
Wziął mechanikę z
Kalguran
bossami.
settlers. The Kalgurans have discovered ancient burial sites with lost Verisium artifacts, and they want you to help dig them up with explosives. The Kalgurans have marked the locations where the relics can be found. Place explosives as best you can to dig up as many as possible. There is just one problem. Corruption has brought the corpses of their ancestors to life, so you might have to do a little cleanup before you can reclaim the artifacts. You can also find remnants, the destruction of which will further anger the restless dead. Each one you blow up will make the subsequent monsters more powerful, but also more rewarding. Danig, Rog, Tujin, and Gwenin will exchange the artifacts for useful items and runic magic. You can also find tablets to increase the number of expeditions and the rewards. This one increases the radius of explosives, while this one increases the number of remnants you will find.
O, to jest Einhara mechanika,
Eventually, you
nie?
might discover a logbook. These are special
Tak, to
maps
jest to
full of
z...
buried treasure
jak się
and
to
relics.
nazywało?
Essentially one giant dig site. Here you can create an extremely long chain of explosives and go through a very high number of remnants.
To nie jest
But
ta
be
mechanika,
careful,
że
many
wybierasz
remnants have mods that can really break your build.
kilka
So
map?
you'll probably want to avoid
To nie
these
są, to
ones.
memorisy
If you add too
były.
many remnants, you could easily make the encounter harder than you can handle. There are all sorts of interesting things buried under the ground in logbooks. You might find dripping caves and hidden pirate
To nie były
caches,
memorisy.
but the most powerful encounter is Olroth, the ancient undead commander of the Knights of the Sun. Defeating him will grant you unique rewards, as well as points to spend in the expedition section of the Atlas tree. So those are the in-game systems on the Atlas, but we are not done yet. The trials we talked about earlier have much more content when you get to Endgame 2. Just like the other in-game systems, they also have progression mechanics, unique rewards, and player power
Nie
that can
przyzwyczaić
only
się
be
do takiej
gained
ilości
from them.
kontentu. Poeta
As you get
anomalia.
higher level coins for the
Dokładnie.
trial of the Sycamores, you will unlock more floors to explore.
Nikt nie powinien tyle wymagać,
Each
szczególnie
floor
od
has its
darmowej
own
gry, ale
challenging rooms
zajebiste.
and a floor boss that you will need to kill. There are 4 floors in total, leading to another pinnacle boss at the end of the last floor, which can only be accessed at endgame. The Trial of the Sycamores is where you'll find jewels, which you can socket into your tree. These are like passives that you can craft with your currency items. They can be really powerful as they allow you to stack modifiers that may not be easily accessible on the tree normally. This jewel gives lightning damage and shock chance, for example. There are quite a few jewel sockets on the tree, so it's possible to gain a lot
Ty,
of power
zobaczcie,
here.
gdzie są jewel
There are
sockety, są w
also
travel
other types of
notkach.
jewels that don't provide any bonuses themselves, but affect other passives surrounding them. This jewel increases the effect of small nodes in radius by 25%. With careful placement in the tree, you could get a significant amount of power from it. There are also
Timeless są
unique available with very
łatwiejsze,
interesting
jest.
effects,
Kurwa.
but you will have to find those for yourself.
Zrezygnowali z
push
jakichś
further into the
pojebanych
trial
liczb na
and uncover the
timelessach.
secrets of the Maraketh, you will want to take advantage of its progression system, relics. Relics are items that can be placed in the relic altar as you start the trial. They give special bonuses that affect the trial, making it easier and increasing its rewards. Of course, you can craft these with your currency items, making them even stronger. If you can complete the entire trial overcoming all 4 floors, the final boss will reward you with one of many unique relics. These relics will be consumed when used on your next run, but can reward you with unique and powerful items. For example, this is the Last Flame. If you use it, you will have only one honor for the
Dostałem
entire
zaproszenie do
trial, so
bety,
you need to do
Twitcha
a
streamowali
completely
o
hitless
2K.
run. The Trial of Chaos also extends into the endgame. As you gain inscribed ultimatums of higher and higher levels, the number of chambers that you can go through increases. In true Val style, this allows you to take even more risks for even more rewards. At endgame, you can progress through up to 10 chambers with 3 bosses on a single run. Stacking 10 tribulations
Będą
on top of
streamy w
each other
2K.
will make this a significant challenge, but
Widzowie.
it's worth it. The Trial Master will tempt you with items of the Val Empire, such as Val Orbs. Val Orbs are powerful crafting items that corrupt your gear with random, mysterious outcomes. Corruption prevents an item from being modified further, so it has to be the last step of your craft. But it's also the most impactful one. For example, if you use one on your body armor, it might add a new powerful enchantment, or it might re-roll up to half of its modifiers. Val Orbs also have the ability to add a socket, allowing you to bypass the normal restriction of how many sockets an item can have. A body armor could get up to 3 sockets this way, allowing for a significant number of mods. Val Orbs can even modify uniques. Adding enchantments or sockets to uniques can make them incredibly powerful, but there is a good chance that you will break them as well. The Trial Master will also occasionally offer you soul cores. Originally formed by Chaos, the Val sought to replicate soul cores through human sacrifice rituals and blood magic to power their civilization. Soul cores are powerful socketable items, with mods that cannot be obtained from regular runes. Like all endgame content, there is of course a pinnacle boss. The final chamber will drop keys to this mysterious door. Some say this is where the Trial Master himself resides. Perhaps you are willing to take the risk to find out. Had enough yet? Because there is still just one more thing.
Pinnacle
the most
boss.
difficult content in Path of Exile 2. While mapping, you might come across this fortress that has emerged from underground, surrounded by an enormous maze riddled with danger. Is the maze preventing something from getting in, or something getting out? This fortress is of ancient origin, and its construction has similarities to the towers and tablets that you have been using on your journey through the endgame. It is clear from the entrance that there are 3 keys required to enter. Local factions are vying for access to the fortress in order to seize the power they believe will be inside. Each of the faction's leaders have managed to get their hands on one of the keys, so you will need to defeat them. Each faction is led by an
Tymczasem Fire Camp czat w
You can see one
Diablo.
of them inhabiting the city,
Słuchamy
but in
waszych
order to
zmian,
fight
chcemy
it,
poprawić
you
grę,
first
nie
need to
wiemy
defeat
jak.
their 2 lieutenants in the adjacent zones. Be careful. If you fail against either of the lieutenants, or to kill the leader, they will move on, and you will need to find them again. Kill all the Uber bosses and you will gain access to the fortress. We aren't going to spoil it, as we can't wait to see you guys attempt it for the first time. But is there a tree you get points in after killing it? Of course there is. This is Path of Exile. There is always another tree.
So these are your challenges for PoE 2. As you can see, this project is crazy huge. Way bigger than even we
Dograne
expected when we started
później.
out.
Nie wiem, czy
How do you gain
zauważyliście.
access? Well, during
Jest
early access you'll
przestawiona
need a key to
kamera.
get in. To thank our existing PoE supporters who have spent more than $480, we'll be giving you guys a key for the PC version for free. Anyone else who wants one can get one by purchasing one of the new early access supporter packs that have just been released to the store. If you just want early access to PoE 2, then you can get a key in the $30 early access pack. The pack also comes with $30 of points to spend in the MTX store. But we also have a variety of other supporter packs filled with exclusive microtransactions, points to spend in the store, and even physical items. The cosmetics can be used right
Pakiet
now
za
in Here We Won and in
$300.
Path of Exile 2 when Early Access starts.
Za $500.
Most of this footage has been recorded in Path of Exile 1, since that's where you can use them immediately. The Lord of Ogham supporter pack
Kupujemy,
contains a
widzowie.
cosmetic armor set befitting of the Count of Ogham himself. There is also a matching back attachment, which has an alternate variant depicting the influence of corruption. Also in this pack, you can find a portal formed of the rusted armor of the fallen soldiers in the Red Vale of Ogham, and the offspring of a vicious crowbell boss found in the hunting grounds. This one doesn't look so vicious though. On top of that, you'll receive the Iron Count's Y-hander to apply to your one-handed or two-handed swords. For those who are wanting to decorate your hideouts with fond memories and tales of Path of Exile's history, you will also get a series of hideout statues. This pack contains the statue of Hillock. For Path of Exile 1's closed beta, each pack contained a true New Zealand icon, the Kiwi. Following this tradition, all packs in this series will also contain a new
Takie
themed Kiwi
bojowe
pet.
kiwi
The
zajebiste.
pet will loyally follow you into battle, but run away at the first sign of trouble. Become the ruler of the desert with the King of the Farad'n supporter pack. Show your mastery of traversing the sands of the Vasteri plains. The body armor will allow you to glide along the ground with ancient sand magic. Now each armor set comes with body armor, boots, gloves, and helmet, but the boots are covered in sand. If you'd prefer to show them off, you can turn the gliding off if you want. The accompanying back attachment equips you with two powerful pillars that can control and manipulate lightning. They will periodically release their energy in a powerful blast while in town, and hover in a circle around you, arcing lightning between them, forming a barrier of energy. Replace the appearance of any bow with the Farad'n's Glory skin,
Fajne z ciałami.
or replace the appearance of a spear with the Tyranny's End spear skin. This spear skin can be applied to staves and war staves in Path of Exile 1. If you want to truly show your worth as a king of the Farad'n, then you definitely need your trusty, moving, entire city fortress known as the Dreadnought to travel across the Vasteri plains. In Path of Exile, you can decorate your hideout however you like, and it's no
To
exception
jest
here.
kurwa hideout?
It comes with a variety of thematic elements to use,
Ja
or use
pierdolę, jaki
decorations from
zajebisty
elsewhere in the game.
hideout.
Additionally, you will get the Deshret's Blessing level up effect,
O!
the King of the Farad'n Kiwi pet, and last but not least, a statue depicting the Vaal Oversoul from Path of Exile 1.
Czajnik,
For those who don't
kurwa.
know how supporter packs work, each pack comes with all of the cosmetics from the previous tier, so you'll get all the items from the Lord of Ogham supporter pack
Dobra,
as well.
ile ten drugi kosztuje? To ja go chyba muszę
The
mieć, kurwa.
Thaumaturge of the Vaal supporter pack features an armor set and back attachment themed around the Vaal and their pursuit of science and progress. You can find the Soul Core weapon
60.
effect in this pack, which
Dobra,
causes
to drugi ja na
thaumaturgic
100%
energy harnessed
kupuję.
from sacrifice to spill from your weapon. This pack also contains Doryani's Idol. It replaces the default appearance of any foci to an ancient relic once used by Doryani, and this can be applied to shields in Path of Exile 1.
To mi się nie
That's
podoba,
not
nie
the only
wiem.
Vaal weapon you'll find. It also contains the Wand of the Thaumaturge skin, and the Royal Sacrifice Dagger skin. You wouldn't think to put sacrificial gems on a Kiwi, but the Vaal did. Thaumaturge of the Vaal supporters will receive the Thaumaturge of the Vaal Kiwi pet, and the Statue of Dominus. This is also the first pack in the series with a physical item. When purchasing this pack, you'll receive a Path of Exile 2 logo t-shirt, but if you don't want one, you can opt out in return for additional points to spend in the store. Becoming a Warlord of the Karui supporter will grant you an armor set and back attachment adorned in jade carvings and
Też mi się nie
iridescent
podoba.
feathers resembling power. Enough to even impress the ancestral gods, specifically Tukohama, the Karui god of war. Overkill, you say? I think the Karui people would disagree. Why not drop a gigantic totem on rare enemies you slay to crush them to a pulp? Replace your crafting bench in your hideout with the Ancestral Canoe crafting bench, where Ancestral Chief Mata will summon a giant canoe manned by Karui warriors to aid in your crafting desires.
We must all start somewhere.
You'll also get a pair of weapon skins. Equip Akoya's Felling Axe skin to your one-hand or two-handed axes, or Tukohama's Crusher to your one-handed or two-handed maces. A true Karui warlord is always accompanied by their trusty Kiwi. Equipped with armor and harnessing
Mogliby dodać
ancestral
jak
magic,
Fortnite'czyk od
they make the
twórcy,
perfect
nie?
sidekick. Once one of the most feared beings in Rayclast, Malachi was slain by a powerful exile. May the statue commemorate the virtue of exiles past, present, and of the future. Of course, it's not all about dressing up in game. You'll want to look good in real life too. By becoming a Warlord of the Kurui supporter, you'll also get a Path of Exile 2 hoodie.
Kurwa Jezu, ten
Our final
niestety
tier
tak
of supporter
chujowy
pack in the
pokazali
series is the Liberator of Rayclast supporter pack. The Liberator of Rayclast armor
Tą
set and back
wizualizację
attachment
bluzy.
come made with the finest materials in Rayclast, and shattered glass mosaics suspended in divine power. Set up your base of operations in the Beacon of Salvation hideout. Why restrict yourself to just one island when you can liberate more? The Beacon of Salvation hideout comes equipped with your own collection of small islands and personal operators of boats you can use to row between them. Just walk to the piers, click a boat to enter, and navigate as you choose. Decorate each island as you see fit to best represent your well-earned hideout. Everyone in your hideout can use their own boat. Why not have some races? You can also get the Window to Twilight portal effect, a beautiful mosaic piece of art that shatters and reveals a gateway to your desired destination as you approach it. As you walk away, the glass magically reforms back to its original form.
Ładne.
Rule in style with the Throne of the Ruler map device. Sure, this map device can create portals to endgame maps,
Ale
but it
zajebiste.
also comes with a throne you can sit on to oversee your growing kingdom. Look down on the plebeians running your maps. Being the Liberator, though, is not just about sitting on your throne all day. If you do decide to join the fight yourself, you can leave a High Priest in charge as your second in command. Liberator of Rayclast supporters will also get a set of varied weapon skins. The Light of Divinity Scepter skin, the Deliverance crossbow skin, the Justice flail skin, and the Redemption shield skin. Once again, you'll have an accompanying Kiwi, and of course a statue depicting one of the most iconic events in Rayclast's history, the battle between a powerful exile and Kitava, the Insatiable. With the help of two deities, Sin and Innocence, the exile was able to defeat him once and for all. This supporter pack also contains the Path of Exile 2 art book.
Oh!
This 215-page full-color art book includes a huge amount of amazing concept art and lore
Kurwa.
produced during the long and exciting journey of Path of Exile 2's development. And
Ja
finally,
lubię
Path
takie
of Exile
rzeczy.
has a tradition of letting the community participate in designing game features. For Path of Exile 2, we'll be adding the Twilight Order foil reliquary. By becoming a Liberator of Rayclast supporter, once Path of Exile 2 is released, you will be able to select any unique item you have found and be able to drop it from the reliquary. Once players have submitted their items, keys to the reliquary will start dropping, and other players will be able to find foil versions of uniques that you have submitted along with a message for the lucky player. The more players submit the same unique, the more chances there will be for the reliquary to drop them, so choose
Co ty
wisely.
gadasz?
Now, almost all of these items are available to use in PoE 1 right now. There are a few exceptions where the item class clearly doesn't exist, such as crossbows or flails. And there are also a few microtransactions on weapon types that are unavailable in PoE 2 at the start of early access. Once classes that use those weapon types are added, those microtransactions will be available to use. If you can't decide which supporter pack to choose yet, you can always start with the early access supporter pack that just includes a key and some points to spend in the store. Then you can upgrade to any of the following tiers at a later date. These supporter packs will be available for purchase throughout early access. We'd really like to thank you for your ongoing support. Without you guys, Path of Exile 2 could not have happened. Now, I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions. Stick around, because coming up next, we have a live Q&A with Ziggy D.
Oglądamy. Nie no, kurwa, zajebiście to wygląda.
To the post-show discussion and Q&A. I hope you all enjoyed what you've seen so far. It's been pretty exciting for us here as well, as you guys have been inspired already just watching things. And you're already cooking a new ascendancy class.
Yeah, for sure.
Ile osób to oglądało?
You've got to do design whenever you can.
Pół miliona.
Absolutely. There's been a few fun moments here already. But I'm your host, Ziggy D, and I'm joined by Jonathan and Mark to talk about everything you've seen. Honestly, it's so much.
I mean, we were really keen to make sure that when we went into early access that people didn't feel like it was just, you know, limping along and kind of, you know, just like a minimal amount of content. We really wanted to kind of blow people away. So hopefully people feel like, yeah, there is enough content. Because, it was certainly was certainly a mission to get all that stuff in.
Yeah, I did come here expecting that there would be, maybe a basic mapping placeholder end game and your 3 acts and, the half the classes. But you've made a decision here clearly that's got to go the core PoE player community in mind.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we have to make sure, look, Path of
delay,
Exile
nie?
voice is like a huge part of what makes it good. So if we didn't have that when we entered Endgame, then I don't think that would be, that wouldn't be a Path of Exile Endgame. So that's kind of what we have to make sure of. So we kind of said, okay, well, like, what is the minimum number of like different in-game things you need to be able to have in order to be able to actually have a viable in-game that we feel like you get different choices, and that's how we ended up with what we have here.
I definitely feel like a lot of games nowadays release, and their campaign's intact and real good. You get to the end game and it just falls real flat.
Yeah.
Oh, deep for the bad.
It was certainly a very important moment for us when we were like, hold on, that's the wrong thing to do. Like, let's not make the same mistake as everyone else, let's pivot. And we actually did that, and like, it made a world of difference and made the game all of a sudden, 100 times bigger with an infinite amount more content, right?
It was definitely hard though, because like, okay, it's like we're progressing. It's like we would have made it. We would have gotten, all these acts in if we hadn't have changed direction. It's like to actually say, you know what, we're going to specifically not finish this content that we'll be working on. It's like pins down everyone. We're stopping work on this. We're going to move over to end games. Is actually more important. Like, that was certainly a hard one.
That would have been some whiplash there, I imagine.
For sure. Well, I mean, it's like suddenly the whole, like environment art team, it's like, they're all just like, whatever you're working on, just scrap. You don't want to scrap, but, like, just stop it. we're doing something else now. So
saving clothes, yeah.
Especially for a lot of the developers, because you got to also think, like, a lot of our developers have just been working on this campaign for, what is it now, 6 years.
Like, I think it's even longer, actually.
Yeah, it's like just this epic journey, whereas none of them, a lot of these people haven't been working on Path of Exile 1 this whole time, so some of us are like, we're just churning out in-game with every league and doing all of that, but for a lot of these people, a lot of these developers, it was quite jarring to swap over, but everyone embraced it. We talked about it, everyone was happy about it and stoked about it, and it
Dobra,
just ended
dawać
up
mięso
coming out
jakieś,
real awesome,
kurwa.
It landed well, and it definitely kind of blew me away when you. So even before I saw anything, we were in the car on the drive here, and you were just info dumping all of the end game. You're like, oh, we got this feature, we got this feature. I'm getting dopamine just from hearing about it. I haven't even seen anything yet. But do you guys feel like you're competing against yourself?
Mi ten drugi supporter wjechał najbardziej.
Set the bar. The original game has set the bar
To
for
nie gadają,
what
bym
is
sobie w tle
available to
przejrzał.
endgame in a game like this, and it makes it's not acceptable really to launch with just nothing in terms of endgame.
Ten mi się najbardziej spodobał.
I mean, like, if you're not competing with yourself, then I don't think you're going to make good progress, right? So that's what you really have to do.
Yeah, but cracking that out for beta even.
Absolutely.
Pretty
well, as I
exciting.
said, I just think it would not have landed nearly as well without that. And I
Nie,
think,
mi się ten w ogóle nie
it's important that our
podoba.
existing Path of Exile 1 community feels like they're also served. Like, yeah, sure, we're doing all this stuff for new players, and that's really important, and that'll expand the audience. But, if we launched and all the PoE 1 players are unhappy, that wouldn't be good. So, we have to make sure that they also feel like, they've got a game for both them and for all the new players we hope to bring to the genre.
And you definitely want all those different axes as
studolków.
well. Like, just having
Kurwa,
two,
ale
right? You get a lot of content can be
500 to już nie
immediately
jest dużo,
divisive,
nie?
right? Obviously, that's the nature of it. That's how it goes, right?
Mi się
And so
te
you have
w
all
ogóle
of
mi
these
się nie
different
podobają.
avenues because there are different
Tylko mi
players
się
who like
artbook
different
podoba
types
w
of
tej.
content. So if you're just like, here's your one end game system, well, immediately then there is a portion of players who are just like, I don't want this, right? And so having all of these options is like ultra key, and that is what
Dokładnie,
Path of
będzie
Exile 1 has
$100,
taught
a
us.
500 tylko 400
And
złotych
again,
różnicy.
it's like, I'd say lessons learned, for the genre, and it is expanding in other games and stuff, but certainly, as you said, competing with ourselves, yes, PoE 1 has like, 40 axes, and we've got 7 really good ones here, and obviously more to come. But 7 is a lot, mind you.
Especially when it's all like, people have to learn a lot of things again. It's going to be very interesting to see how long it takes people to do the kind of difficulty 4 pinnacle content. It's like we have to. It's honestly like we actually don't even really know, because like you never know what people are going to find in terms of builds and so on. Like I'm hoping that it will take people a while to be able to work it out, but you never know. Maybe end of day 1, people just be like, oh yeah, easy, no problem, mate. Could be what it's like.
We have a few people that are doing that sort of thing. I saw like a solo self found level 100 in 24 hours or something.
Jeez, okay, we got this is where we've got it now, is it?
So but I imagine there'll be a little bit of a soft
Za ile?
Yeah, sure.
a
There's
relearning
stuff to
tygodnie
period.
wychodzi,
There's stuff to
nie?
learn.
And I mean, PoE 2 has changed a lot over the years, so more than 5 years of development now. And what was that initial pitch when PoE 2 was first put forwards, like, as to what it's going to be? Because it was much smaller in scope originally.
Yeah, so when we started, it wasn't even a sequel. It was just we're just updating the character rigs, and over time, it kind of feature creeped into a proper sequel. But the thing that we were saying is, whenever we were talking about it, and I guess this is the main thing, is that we're like, okay, when we make an area here, it needs to be that there's like a theme for it. It feels unique from everything else. We're not going to just like have recycled stuff like within the campaign that just feels like, oh, we just took this area and modified it slightly. Each one's got to have its own stuff. It's got to have monsters that were like carefully thought about that like, fit in with the world. And it's got to have bosses that are actually like good tier quality. And every area is going to have one. So those decisions have kind of been things that have meant that they really raised the quality bar to a level that took us way longer than we even really expected. Like those things there, just like it's huge, right? Like honestly, I feel like we underestimated significantly what it would take to deliver that level of quality.
Nadruk tej bluzy, to nie
a
jest...
battle I
Nie
fought for,
podoba mi
and
się
I
ten
mean like
nadruk.
way back, was like, if you think back to, say, Diablo 2, which obviously still holds a lot of, power in terms of design motivations and philosophy and stuff within the company, you get things like the super uniques, and PoE 1 did them, and it's just like, here's a boss with 1 or 2 skills. And I remember very, very, very early on in PoE 2, I'm like,
Gdzie można
I
dobry
want
nadruk
every
kupić?
single
Na Oglądzie
boss to
mamy
be
zajebiste
memorable in a
nadruki.
thing. I don't want a unique monster that's just like dies in 2 seconds and uses heavy strike
Tam
and has a
faktycznie jest
fancy name.
konkretne kurwa sito robione.
I even got some push. I remember getting some pushback at the time and thinking like, I love the bosses, my favorite part of everything, and so I was just like, man, I don't want this. This is just terrible. But of course, that decision, me pushing for that, me wanting that, turned into this megalithic.
What have you done?
Now we have 50, aiming to be 100. Honestly, probably later, several more 100 once all the end games, everything start to evolve and more expansions comes out. And I'm like, yep, we maybe just made 100 times more work for ourselves, but 100% bloody worthwhile, because I'd say those bosses are one of the main attraction pieces of the game, and anyone who plays it is just like, holy crap, those boss fights are amazing. So like, obviously some are bad and some are good to different people and all that. That's how it all goes.
D4 dzisiaj na streamie pokazał praktycznie zero nowego kontentu. Budynek premiery posiada z 10% kontentu, jaki został dzisiaj na streamie pokazany. Z taką firmą jest Blizzard, no.
Numerous axes, and as we just raised the quality bar to what we thought was good.
Słuchajcie, nie traktujcie PoE poważnie. Ono jest robione w unikalnych warunkach i nie możecie od innych gier wymagać tego, czego wymagacie od PoE.
Campaign, everything. But
full standalone separate game.
Nie no, oni chyba postawili dzisiaj ostatni krzyż na kurwa Diablo 4.
It was originally codenamed Project Chimera.
What? I don't.
It was this pipe dream.
I've never been a fan of these codename things.
It was this like, there were times way back in the original Office, there was all this like, sometimes there'll be a feature you can't really do in PoE 1, and it was always like, we'll do it in Project Chimera. That was like amongst the developers, and people were like, what the heck is that? Now, ironically, there is a boss in Act 3 called, well, it's got a different name, but it's called the Chimera internally. It is a chimera. It's a multi-headed beast. And you've seen it in a few of the marketing, things here and here, different trailers, little snippets of it. And I think it's just ironic that was actually the first boss asset made before everything, the first monster, because back in when we used to just make random monsters and we'll find out how to use them. And that was made for that game. It was used in the original PoE 2 trailer, right? It is the only incomplete, technically, but only from a balance standpoint, or it was the last boss to finish in the entire Path of Exile campaign right now.
It sounds like there was like some sort of emotional demon that you had to battle there, of like the legacy of the original
Potem powinniśmy obejrzeć
We had a moment with the monster game designers.
taki wywiad z pracownikiem
The
Ubisoftu.
Chimera is finally being finished. Holy, this is like, we were effectively like, we need to celebrate this boss finally being done. It was like at the origin, and now it's at this, point where we're about to deploy early access. Not to say the end, because the end is
forever away.
Yeah. Yeah, still the
To
beginning.
będzie
of the
styl
journey
nowego
in ways.
gatunku?
But on that note of
Nie, no to raczej
celebrating,
będzie
like,
mix.
how do you guys feel having now kind of
Będzie pchnięcie
for
hack
the
and
first time,
slash
I
w
feel
nową
really, like,
stronę.
laid
To
bare
jest
kinda everything
totalnie kurwa
and
nowego.
putting it out there and only being 2 weeks away from everyone playing it.
Well, it's
To
always
jest
scary.
totalne rozszerzenie
coming
hack and
into a
slashu,
release, and I think
pokazanie jej
especially
strony,
for,
w które to ma iść, nie?
a bunch of people on the PoE2 team who have, who are, like they have, this is their first game that they're going to be releasing, and that experience is something that yeah, like it's
No,
tough.
to
And
jest
honestly, I think
ewolucja
that
gatunku.
even we were feeling a little bit cocky actually about the fact because we release content for PoE1 all the time, and I feel like we kind of felt like we knew what it took to get a game released, but honestly, like PoE2 was just a whole entirely different demon as far as getting things out, right?
No,
like
to
it's just
będzie duży
way
game
more
changer.
difficult. Like when you actually have to make everything, like the whole frickin' thing, right from the ground up again. It's like wow, there's way more stuff there, and like there's even things like the passive tree where it's like.
Poganus,
I
dzięki
feel like we
za
underestimated what it would
Kurwa,
take
ja mam alerty
to get
zapauzowane
something
od
like
jak
that to an
dawna.
actual releasable state. Like that was a huge amount of work, just like absolutely colossal to get it to to get that kind of stuff in shape. Like it's just been crazy. Yeah, like obviously it's nerve-wracking, coming up to a release day. But I think we do have something that players are going to really enjoy, and like
Dzięki
it's always
widzowie za
comforting
wasze
when,
suby.
we had a live event in LA recently. People, we got to the time limit and everyone's like, "Oh man, we don't want to stop." So like I'm really, I think people are going to really enjoy it.
It's been a whole different experience for me here playing this time around as well, whereas before I was playing a very buggy kind of internal version of the game that was very experimental.
Dzięki
now
Danaki,
playing
spróbowałeś, bardzo mi miło.
Almost what I'm going to be playing in.
Well, I heard you still managed to blow the count up the elevator with some kind of knockback bug.
I wasn't going to mention that.
Yeah, we have to just go get that one.
I did send the Act 1 boss up an elevator with knockback. It was good.
Intended mechanic.
I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
He was in his like big wolf form and kind of trapped in there, so just barking at me through the wood. It's good. So a few little, I'm sure there's a few things to work out over this next 2 weeks. I hope the team can have a little bit of a rest for a day before they get back into it. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot. So you've done that pivot to the endgame focus and got so much for us now to play around with in the beta, and it seems like originally I was thinking, we might be playing for a few weeks here, and then maybe going back over to some Path of Exile.
Nie było tak dużo tych alertów zapauzowanych. Dzięki
That would certainly be good. Look, there's enough stuff there. I think it will take people a long time to get through.
Yep.
And I mean, obviously, it's also going to be the first time people are playing through a completely fresh campaign as well. I think that will take people a fair amount of time.
Ja najbardziej właśnie nie mogę doczekać tej kurwa kampanii. Zobaczyć, jak pójdzie ludziom, nie mając dostępu do buildów z neta.
I mean, we've always wanted it to be that Path of Exile 2 leagues, are going to be, like how PoE1 leagues are, where you play them and you play
Dobrze
them
jest mieć więcej widzów na streamie niż całe Diablo 4.
Sure, you get done with them eventually, and then you've got the next content that comes out. So, in order to be able to realize that, you have to have enough of a base to make that happen.
Yeah, people are definitely wondering how invested they can get in the beta. So I definitely want to ask a few questions kind of around that idea. Firstly, is there going to be wipes and resets, and will there be something before launch as well?
So we are going to be having new leagues effectively throughout the beta whenever we launch something significant, because we want to make sure that all of the effectively that people are able to play through. But that stuff will be merged into an early access league, and effectively after we go into full release, that league will stick around. Now, I can't promise that everything about your character will function exactly like how it did in that thing.
I imagine it will be a glorious kind of snapshot of all of the here's all the broken stuff. Yeah.
But effectively, we can contain all that stuff in the sort of early access league, and then if you still want to play those characters, then you can go right ahead and do that. But the action is always going to be in whatever the most recent league is, and then of course after that point there'll be a standard that everything goes into, which all our economic sins will forevermore be archived in the in standard. So that's. No doubt what will happen.
Well, it's nice that it's not going to be affecting what will be the standard league.
Yeah.
Also,
that's the idea.
People will be able to kind of get invested in their characters. Because,
absolutely.
I mean, there's even something kind of cool about the idea of making something that will be like that little historical piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little collectible.
Absolutely, and I'm sure there'll be some handful of legacy things that only exist in early access leagues. So, I guess we'll have to see what comes with the unique balance.
You talked about the, playing for a week or how long are we expecting?
Yeah.
Well, we also got to remember, and a lot of the PoE1 players will be thinking very differently to people who are obviously going to experience this as a new game, but it is a new game, right? You don't have all these predefined, hyper-refined builds to play to immediately,
go through things. You don't have people coming in with like fully detailed 7 million line build guides of exactly what to do with what items. The discovery is going to be there. The discovery takes time, and the discovery is like honestly ultra fun for me. I love it. Now, those things will emerge after time. Of course they do. Completely fine. But you should remember, like, there's a lot of game to play here to discover, to learn about the world, the new narratives, the new world building, the new unique items, the ascendancy classes, the massive passive tree, which is bigger than PoE 1's.
Nie, trzeba kupić nowego supporter packa.
You know, endgame systems, the bosses.
Dobra, oglądamy to do końca, czy przechodzimy do czegoś innego?
Like, you know, even, you know, I personally, when a PoE 1 league comes out, for example, I play for like a month. Sometimes a bit longer, sometimes a bit less. It ultimately also depends largely what's going on here and how much I need to invest here. So, you know, and there are other people who play for more like 3 and whatnot, but there's certainly going to be a much longer time period you can play this for while still discovering new stuff and not feel like you're finished, you know what I mean? Now, of course, you see that's subjective. Everyone can pick their own point when they finish, but if you want to see everything and do everything, you're going to be investing a lot more time, especially these first-time rounds, and then obviously with every league, there's more to discover, but you get faster at doing all these parts over and over and over again, you get more efficient over time. That's how the game works. So, yeah, I'd expect a lot of time to be sunk into this to fully explore it, to start with, like a lot, you know? Not a week, not 2 weeks. You're going to be going far, far longer than that if you want to see everything. But, you know, it's up to you. Play at your own pace. See how you want to go. Learn at your own pace. That's the beauty of a new game as well, which we haven't been able to experience with Path of Exile 1, you know, or other games and for so long, is actually discovering the entire world. And yeah, there's some familiar mechanics at the end game and stuff like that, which is awesome for people. But yeah, I certainly want to really, I'm very excited to see people discovering the new things and getting so excited about it.
I can tell you're amped for watching people go through that discovery process. Maybe even diving in yourself 100%. I mean, I love sitting there in Path of Building, as many of us do, but I am very excited for that.
Well, yeah, as we were saying,
discovery process for a while.
I think you were saying how much you were part spreadsheet. I think I was saying I'm like maybe 60% spreadsheet, 40% discovery, and that's my play archetype. You know, so
coming up with our player profiles, Timmy spikes, and things like that for both of Exile characters.
The discovery part of me is ultra excited, and and mind you, that's coming from someone who kind of knows all the content. I'm still, because there's something different about making it versus actually playing it live with the players, seeing them discover it, uniques being linked in chat and on Reddit and all of that is just so cool. So we're gonna get a massive dose of that, and it is like genuinely exciting to just see how people are gonna think. You know, what's worth 1 chaos or what's worth 10 chaos, what's worth if chaos is even the metric.
Is chaos even the currency that people settle on?
We were arguing about this earlier.
I'm pretty sure that 1 C spam in chat might turn into 1 E, because like, you know, 1 exalt. Given that exalt is now,
I think it'll be chaos.
People probably
ad remove will still be.
People don't appreciate, by the way. Like, so when we say we've increased, you're going to be getting multiple exalts in Act 1. In PoE 2, like we actually have increased that a lot. It isn't just like an idle, you know. Like
I can see exalts becoming the new kind of like chaos.
I think actually
chaos
that
being the new divines.
I actually agree. But we'll see.
That's my point.
But it's a new economy, right? Like who even knows? The market will have to...
W sumie ciekawe, że że nie mają dokładnie pojęcia, co się stanie nowym chaosem, co będzie główną walutą.
So, do you have some kind of like beta release roadmap for updates and things like that for people to look forward to with that?
I mean, we certainly did have one 6 months ago when we were, but now that we're sort of getting to release, it's like, oh my god, like, you know, we have to look at it. So, I mean, look, I don't think it'll be any less than 6 months. I think it could easily end up being more. I certainly don't want to. 2025, I think, really want to be, you know, full release in 2025. I don't really want to be spending more than a year. That would be pretty crazy. But I mean, honestly, like we have to get all the content finished and all that sort of stuff. You know, we always feel like we underestimate these things, and of course, we have to learn what we need to learn. We have to get the game to the point when it is really fun. You know, we have to make sure that like all of the things, like, you know, we've got the difficulty right for all the players, we've got the economy right, like all the stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things that we have to sort out. And so I kind of have a feeling that the first few weeks at least are going to just be scramble of like, you know, oh crap, someone like worked this crazy thing out and we found this thing, and like, you know,
Ciekawy jestem, ile ludzie zrobią broken buildów, nie?
When we had
to może być mega ciekawe do odkrywania.
At least the kind of base of stuff that we have is kind of, you know, well tested and people know kind of what's going on with it. But here
Nie
it's like just
pokazali
complete new
Delva, no?
world, and
Możliwe,
we're the
że go
kind
nie
of game
będzie
that
na
has a
początku.
lot of ability for players to do stuff that we wouldn't anticipate. You know, we have just the way support gems work and everything like that. So there's certainly a lot of worry that like there's just going to be builds that are like completely ridiculous that we just never anticipated, combining certain things in different ways we don't expect. You know, with hundreds of support gems, it can be like that. So you know, that's going to be an interesting one.
It will happen.
Yeah, for sure.
It is inevitable, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's nothing we can even do about it because you'd need hundreds and thousands of hours of testing to be able to do that with what can only be done with hundreds of thousands of players. But that's also the magic of it all, which is awesome.
That's why I was asking you, like, are you literally really doing 12
Oh,
classes in 36
Syndicate
sentences?
Haste Harbinger
actually?
Blight Harvest.
Absolutely, we have. We know what we want to do.
Kurwa, dobrze.
It is a bit, but you know, we like a challenge. I mean, you know, a studio that produces a passive skill tree like we do.
Dobra, widzowie, tu nie ma mnie żadnego. Przechodzimy dalej, nie? Przechodzimy dzisiaj do kolejnego segmentu, tak mi się wydaje. Czy chcecie to dokończyć? Nie no, niby 15 minut tego jeszcze zostało. Nie no, dobra, chuj, kończę, stary. Kończę to, stary, oglądać. 15 minut.
I mean, look, I'm pretty sure, like, I really want to get the druid out. Like, we announced it.
Czy skipujemy?
It's a lot of fun. You know, I'm keen to get that out there as soon as we can. You know, the huntress we've talked a bunch about as well. There's like those kinds of things. I think we'll be able to move towards those pretty quick. But you know, there's obviously more to do.
The other thing you mentioned, talking roadmap like things, is we've always been, you know, it's hard to predict because a lot of what will happen is, and what we leave space for is reacting to what the players want. And so if you plan everything for so long, you're going to have very, very, very slow reaction times to fixing, you know, or adding certain content where there may, you know, maybe the issue is like, the campaign needs more of this, or this class needs more of this, or something. So if you're planning, then you're going to be delivering on what they want solved like a year down the line or even longer.
Right,
and where we like to remain very, very dynamic and, like, you know, you want to be able to fix that stuff like, oh, well, this is the main problem. Like, sure, obviously you need more than a week sometimes, most of the time. But we want it generally to be that the next releases, expansions, updates, whatever, can alleviate as many of those problems as possible. So, yeah, you try not to get too strict with the planning has generally been our philosophy, because especially when it comes to actually having the live service product out, because that is very, very important. Otherwise, you're never going to seem
dzięki,
like you're doing
Lagerix, bardzo
what
miło.
What are you doing if not that?
So that actually is a good point. Like, I was going to ask, what do you folks, what does the team want out of the beta? Because obviously it's like a good way to market the game, but it's also you know, key to shaping the game in the future. Like, an actual beta, it's not just early access.
I think one of the most important things, I think it's going to be really good for the development team to get back into a live mindset and like get it back into the idea of like everything we make is shipping.
People are seeing this.
Like, get back into this. You know, people are seeing. You know, like actually getting back into that and like and being able to sort of see directly. Like, okay, we make something, it goes in the game. People like it, don't like it, like that kind of stuff. Like, and that really, like, that has been our studio for like most of its lifetime. Obviously, you know, before we released PoE1, it wasn't. But after that point, I mean, we are a company like.
Trzeba z tobą przepchać donate'a, no.
We can do live service better than anyone else. Like, that is our goal. And so, like, getting back into that again, you know, for everyone in the studio, so that everyone's working on things that are going to be releasing within, you know, certainly in less time than 3 months away. Is going to think be really, really good for us again. I look forward to just being able to do that, because these long term, like really long term things, like that span over years. So you go so long without proper feedback, like stuff kind of gets made, and then like it's not really in a real game, and so it doesn't get
probably
tested
lose
properly.
Perspective,
and you absolutely lose perspective on this stuff. So I think that that's just going to be really great to get back to that again.
Yeah, I honestly, as you said, it is early access. It is a beta period, and I'd say, you know, personally speaking, the thing that, and we mentioned it briefly about the character balance and the builds that are broken and all that, that's obviously pretty useful to me, right?
Yeah.
Plus, we have other systems in there, like, you know, the checkpointing system, right? You have to kill the boss in one life. You know, these are things we haven't mass tested, and obviously other games have, and they work, and that's awesome. There are other things like, you know, the endgame system is a little bit less forgiving in that if you die, you fail the map, right? These things are things that we obviously need to test and iterate on in the future by adjusting the difficulty and stuff like that. And you, especially as you get towards this point of, you know, the end game, like, okay, Act 1 has been tested like crazy.
Yep.
Right? And you get less and less testing as it goes on because you get less people, you know, they've just been around for less time. And so, yeah, it's going to be a huge amount of iteration and feedback and from the players and us just, you know, reevaluating all the stuff. And the thing is, we're always dynamic about that stuff. Like, we'll just change things if it's wrong. We'll redesign it. We'll come up with a new way. Jonathan's a firm believer of if A doesn't work and B doesn't work, then we'll find C, we'll find option C, we'll find option D, and we'll keep changing things and we'll make it work. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot of that iteration on our design decisions, how forgiving, because, like, the game is pretty hard. You know, it can be pretty hard. And so when you're on that fine line of, like, you know, if things are difficult, you know, it's not too easy to know if you've tilted one way or the other. So, you know, finding what everyone agrees should be the common corrected difficulty is something that I will obviously be paying very, very, very close attention to.
It's a pretty hard thing to nail down when you are making the game. And so we've seen that a lot where you folks have been pretty willing to change and then rechange again some of the core features like flasks and the waypointing system and portals. And you're keeping that kind of mindset going into the beta then?
Of course. I mean, look, we're always willing to change stuff. Like that flask thing, like the most recent change to that was like ultra recent. Like, have we even had like a closed beta of that yet? Was it? No, I think we haven't. Yeah, but I mean, I think it's way better than it was. Like, it's the things have improved a lot. And honestly, like that's one of those things we've been wanting to do, something to sort out flasks for ages.
Yep.
And it really came about because when actually looking at what new players were having trouble with when they were playing, Flask Piano was actually like, even from the very beginning of the game, actually ended up being one of those things that like people just had trouble with, just like just the manual dexterity required to like hit all your different flask keys, and then you have to know when one of your flasks run out so you can move to the next one, and like various things like that. Like all that stuff actually was like just a large amount of mechanical complexity right from the very beginning. And then even at Endgame, I don't think it was really that satisfying either, because you ended up with like, you know, just like having to press all these buttons all the time, and obviously it's all utility flasks that people are using at Endgame. And then we kind of tried to band-aid this in PoE 1 with the some of the flask stuff that was added there, but there was still this idea that that you're still more powerful if you don't automate. So therefore, you know, like it's like there's that trade-off there. So
you're just more powerful if you get mage blood. Really,
sure. I guess. Sure.
And then it's all automated, and you're very powerful.
Yeah, sure, all right. But you know, so the point is effectively that the charm stuff that we're doing effectively means that you no longer, the game is making that decision of like, you know, that stuff will be automated. You no longer have to do that like crazy flask piano to get the best, you know, the best out of your character. And I think that is definitely a step in the right direction. And the other thing as well is it actually makes the crafting more meaningful, I think, on the flasks, because when you've got like 5 slots, then like the individual mods and the individual stuff like seems to tend to not matter as much. I mean, obviously, you know, people want instant recovery and things like that, but you know, like but like now it's like it's much more meaningful. Like on your life flask, the choice between do I want instant or do I want way more life, like that kind of stuff actually can be a lot more meaningful once you've only got one. So yeah, I think it is a lot better personally.
You have we'll jump ahead to flasks since we're on the topic. You have locked in effectively the fact that there's a mana flask there now, so there's always going to be a mana flask slot. And how does that tie into your design for mana? And are we always going to be using a mana flask slot, or if we solve another way, what does it do?
You can absolutely solve another way, and then you'll just have a flask slot that isn't doing anything for sure. But I think it kind of has to work that way because we really don't want. Because like once you sort of start to get into changing that around, I feel like the system sort of starts to break with regard to like, you know, the feeling of like I know where mana is, I know where my health is, like that kind of stuff. That being said, you know, we've always got uniques and stuff like that. I believe there's already
there is a unique that allows you to equip 2 flasks.
But the thing is, then that's a build choice that you're making, so it's a little bit different, and that's fine. But I think the system as it works now it's a lot easier.
Zawsze będzie mana flaszka,
ciekawe. So it does sound like on the mana side of things then that there are going to be multiple angles of solving mana, not necessarily flasks.
So we've got Leech edition number 475.
Dobra, widzowie, idziemy dalej. Idziemy dalej.